Hello and welcome to Spurs Kings TV. It is your host Marlon. It is Tuesday. You know what time it is. Every Tuesday we are here. It's time for the main man himself. It's Ashmatic Analysis. Ash, are you well?
Bro, I'm good, man. What can I say? You know what? As a Spurs fan, I'll be real, yeah. Now that we're out of all the cups,
Hold on.
apart from one, don't forget it. Don't forget it. Apart from one, like the way we exited, I feel like I don't know if you saw the Spanish Temptation Island. I don't know
Oh,
if you
dude.
saw that online, yeah.
Oh, dude. Man, I've...
I feel like the guy that's running across the beach like that. And he goes, "Daddy!" You know what I'm saying? After the girl was cheating on him and she's getting her cheeks clapped. I was like, boy, you know what? It is crazy, bro. Right now, that's how my heart felt after those two smackdowns. That's what it was, bro. It was a
Dude,
smackdown.
yeah.
But, boy, yeah. Apart from that, nice. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. I've already had my Tottenham frustration out. I've been on show yesterday and show on Sunday, so I'm all out, man. I'm all out. I'm leaving it to you lot tonight. but let's bring on the illustrious panel tonight. You know, as they're the ones who make the show. But you know what? I'm gonna start with the guy that's actually in the intro. We haven't seen him for a while, but he's always got something to say, and he's a he was big on YouTube. He's calmed down a little in the past 6 months, but it's good to finally see him back and good to see his face. Big welcome, Danny. You good?
Up, boys. Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, you're cool.
All good, man. All
Nice,
good.
nice to have the invite for today. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on your show, man. It's been a long time.
It's been too long.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped podcasting for like nearly a year, so it's been a while since I've kind of just started to get back into it again.
That's always good to see.
Yeah, life changes quick, man. Life moves at you fast.
Yeah, trust me.
Yeah, but how are you boys? Are you good? Apart from Spurs, of course.
Yeah, all good apart from Spurs. You know, look, that's what we can smile about. We ain't gonna be smiling in about 20 minutes, but you know, we can smile about it now.
Good. Oh, thanks for having me as well. Thanks for having me tonight.
No worries. The next person I'm gonna bring on is making waves in the YouTube scene. Finally got his own channel after a very long time. It took him a while, didn't it, Ash? Took him a while. But he finally got one, and he's making waves in the industry. And actually did a We Are Tottenham TV watch along with you as well.
Yeah,
and it's always good to see him. George, how you doing, my man?
What's good, man? It's good to be back, and yeah, man. Like I said, finally made my own channel. But like Ash said, if you're gonna ask me how I feel about Spurs, Montoya, that's just how I feel, man. That's literally like when we lost that last game, and I was just like, yeah, season's done now. Like, there's nothing to look forward to. There generally isn't. So, nothing great on Spurs side, but outside of that, all good, man. All good.
So Ash messaged me yesterday and went, "Do you feel? Is there anyone out there that will probably reply to me and go, I'm still backing Ange, And I said to him, mate, they're not going to come on. They're not going to, you know, I can put it out there. No one's going to message me back. But however, I was wrong. I was so wrong. I was like literally going, do you know what? I have to eat my words and I apologize to Ash now on live while we're live. I was wrong. Right? But a big welcome making his debut tonight is his camera gone. But welcome to Simon. Simon, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi. I've lost sound. Sorry, guys, I can't hear you.
No, that's all good, bro. We can hear you, man. That's what that matters.
We can hear you. Yeah, as long as we can hear you. But no worries. Apart from that, how are you? He's lost us.
Oh man.
No, guys, I've lost you. Sorry. I can see you.
You can see us, but you can't hear us. Do you know what? This happens a lot. Every time we go and start the show.
Well, it is what it is, man.
People sound start to go. Anyway, do you know what, right? Let's get straight into it. Obviously, Liverpool on Thursday, Ash, was probably the start of the collapse this weekend.
Yeah.
And then obviously Villa. But let's roll it all into one. How are you feeling after both losses in the space of a week?
You know what? I didn't expect us to win. I said the cups. I don't think who's going to win the cups. I'll being honest. And I thought the same about Europa. I know we haven't had that yet, but I wasn't confident just seeing the way we play. I know it was a one-off game, but I still felt like the way the season had been going, the way our form was, yeah, it wasn't looking good at all. But the way we performed was, for me, was like, wow, that is crazy. And I feel like Ange was between a rock and a hard place because he went from dropping it back, which he doesn't really do. And I think he followed on from the Brentford game because in the Brentford game, he was more pragmatic. And everyone's like, what? And just changing it. Like, what's going on? Tried to do that against Liverpool. And then we got our asses handed to us. And I think then Ange was like, see, I told you he don't sit back. I told you it doesn't work. I tried it all right and it doesn't work. Went to Aston Villa, tried to do the normal, gun hole thing. And then I think, yeah, what happened. So that's it in a nutshell, bro. I won't go any further.
George, come to you. Obviously, Liverpool result was probably expected, but probably the performance wasn't. And then we went into the Villa probably expecting a reaction. How did you see both games?
Yeah, no, for me that, like, for the Liverpool game, don't get me wrong, I don't think any Spurs fan would have thought, yeah, we're gonna go to Anfield. We got our records like 3-80. So going to Anfield and getting a win was pretty much near impossible. But I think for me, it's just the way that we went out in both of the cups, it's the performances. And that's really where I turn on Ange, and I turn on the fact that clearly you've lost the players, and there's a lot of things going wrong because the players' heads are just all over the place in Liverpool. For one, the mentality just was not in the right place. They really didn't look like they were there to actually. They didn't take in the fact that this was a semi-final against the best team in England, the best team in Europe. They really didn't calculate that, and that you need to be at your best. You guys needed to. The only way that we were going to get through it is putting in 100% effort and potentially getting a draw at that. So the Liverpool game was just hugely disappointing. And like Ash pointed out, and Ange went on to say, yeah, the reason we lost was because we didn't stand on our principles. Okay, cool. Stand on your principles against Aston Villa. 1 minute down. 1 minute in, we're down 1-0. And then going onwards from that, it could have been 5, it could have been 6. And you look back at both games, as well as many games this season, playing the way that Ange plays, teams just open us up. That teams could score 5 or 6 goals if they're more clinical in front of goal. And they should have. We got a lucky goal right at the end that minimized the scoreline to only a one goal difference. But we all know, watching the game, we were absolutely battered. And he just looks clueless, continuously making the wrong decisions. 1 + 1 = 3, pretty much. Because you could put in a left back at left back. Just throw Reggie in there for. I don't rate Regulon, but when players are leggy and Archie Gray's played more minutes than any other Premier League player in the last 3 months, and he's 18. Simple solutions, man. You take him out of the team, you put Ben Davies at centre back, you put Regulon at left back, and we can work something out. Just see how the team fares for a little bit. But yeah, man, I think he's just overcomplicated a lot of things and just hasn't done the thing that he was brought in to do, and that is coach. Coach is coach, and he really hasn't done any of that.
Simon, I want to bring you in onto this whole debate of how Thursday and Sunday went for you. How did you see both performances? And was it kind of what you was expecting, or did you expect something a little bit more, especially from the reaction on against Villa?
I mean, the Liverpool game for sure. I was so disappointed. As you say, there was just no effort, no energy. But I do kind of think there's circumstances for that. I don't think he's lost the players. I genuinely think if he'd lost the players, Lee would have got rid of him by now, because I mean, obviously I'm in France now, so I have to watch all the games on the telly. But the Villa game, you could hear the Levy out chants, you could hear all that stuff. And Levy, when stuff's going for him, he'll get rid of the manager to get the fans back on his side again. The only reason I think he hasn't done is because I think maybe the players are still playing for Ange. I know Villa didn't look like it, but I just think they're shattered. I think the players are mentally shot, they're physically shot. It's hard for them, and this is kind of why I'm willing to give Ange a little bit of a leeway, really. I mean, I get what you're saying, like with the whole tactics thing. He's got to he's got to change. I'm not saying he's blameless. There's definitely problems with him, but compared to what we've had over the last 5 years, I'd rather just let him see out the season, let him carry on with the Europa League. Because I do think if you get someone else in, he's going to have the same problems. He's still going to have the same injuries, the same tired players, but the players then might not play for him, like they're potentially playing for Ange now. It's a mess, basically. But yeah, the Villa game, after a minute, I was just like, oh, I'm 50 this year, and I've just had my first kid, who's a 1-year-old now, and my dream was like, let's take him to go to Spurs, bring him up, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, do I want him?
There's one good benefit.
I live in France now. Let me support PSG. Fuck it,
Simon. There's one good benefit for having your kid now, yeah, because when he's 20 years old, hopefully by then Daniel Levy will be gone. So
he'll still be there, mate. He'll still be there.
Maybe he probably will.
Yeah, no, I do think, for me personally, I think the problem. I mean, it's the same problem it's been for like the last load of managers. You could argue about Ange are out, but the problem of the main problem is above him. Why hire a manager that plays attacking, intensive football and then give him no players? It's crazy. And you can say the same for Conte. He wasn't back properly. Mourinho wasn't back properly. Poch definitely wasn't. When you're saying about the rebuild, it's what the problem is.
Danny, let's bring you in on it. Like, obviously, Thursday, Sunday, quick turnaround. But what you kind of see? What you look? And everyone, I think everyone said the performance against Liverpool wasn't great. However, no one expected us to go to Anfield and win. It's some Spurs fans who we'll call them delusional. Probably thought we were going to go to Anfield and win, considering our record was 8 in how many years there. But Liverpool completely outplayed us. They bossed it complete, and it was like, okay, move on. Let's see something at Villa. How did you then see the Villa game?
I mean, they're both just as bad as each other. I think you can't really. Liverpool, we were always going to lose that game. It was just a matter of how much. The problem with the Liverpool game is that we didn't put up a fight at all, and the two patterns in both games is that they literally walked through our midfield. It was like no one was there. So that was the biggest problem. And the problem we've got at the moment is there's so many problems, right? It's so hard to actually pinpoint exactly where all the faults come from. Everyone talks about it's Ange's fault, the tactics, it's his training methods, it's this and that. It is everything. It is partly the training, partly Ange's tactics. It's partly the fact that let's be honest, right? I'm not an Ange in, I'm not an Ange out. I'm Ange, I don't give a fuck. Sorry for the language. I don't care if he stays or not, right? It doesn't bother me. I just don't want to see Ryan Mason in this job ever again. Ever. I never want to see him managing Tottenham, ever. So that's me. But if you look at it, right, we haven't won a home game since, in 3 months nearly. And if you look at where it's frustrating for Spurs fans is that when you look at those two games, right, Ange is really, really, really trying to put the excuse on the fact that we have got injuries, right? That is what he's really trying to put the blame on.
Yeah.
Fact is that even before the injuries, we weren't really playing well at all, right? It was winning, losing. We were so inconsistent. And 1 minute we're beating Man City, next minute we're losing at home to Ipswich, and it's just like it's just all over the place the way that we're playing. Look, it's just so difficult to. I know a lot of people are going to blame. A lot of people want Ange out. I get it. I understand it, right? And I personally, like, if he goes, which I don't think he's going to go until the end of the season. I just think that he hasn't done himself any favors in these games, because I mean, we've heard that he said that they're not even training because they're recovering, but he talks about not using the same players for the last 3 months, nearly every single game, right? But when he has had a chance to rotate a couple of players, he hasn't done it, right? He has had chances over the last 3 months to rotate players, but yet he was still using the same players over and over again. How long did it take to start using Spence, right? If he really wanted to, he could have made some tweaks every game, right? Just to keep it a bit fresher, right? But apart from the kind of core of the team, the problem is that those players have been playing 2 to 3 games a week for the last 3 months, and that's been a massive problem for us. Like, I'm not trying to excuse Ange, excuse the tactics, all that kind of stuff. The fact it is a problem. Even the problem is that why fans are so pissed off with Ange is that last season, we at the back end of last season, after that Chelsea game, right, we had the same inconsistent results, and we were only having 1 game a week, right? And then we've now got 3 games a week, and Ange was saying in the summer that he was happy with the business that's done. But every Spurs fan will sit here and tell you we didn't do enough. Every single Spurs fan will say that to you. So the fact that he is accepting that is his problem. He's taken the burden on. It's my fault. Like, he's saying, I was happy with this, so whatever happens, it's on him, and that's where the frustration is. It's like a block for Levy at the moment. It's like a shield for Levy. So look, it's just those. I think the worst thing about those 2 games is the way that we played against Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa. I don't think that in that game we could have done something, right? But what happened in that game is we did absolutely nothing, and they could have absolutely destroyed us. So look, do you know what I think is going to happen is when they start getting the players back, we're going to go back to being that inconsistent kind of form. We're going to win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, draw 1, win 1, lose 1. It'll be like that kind of pattern. It will just be all over the place, right? It's not going to really get that much better. And I probably think that he end up leaving in the summer. But look, the whole club is an absolute mess at the moment. It's just completely shambolic. Like, everything, top to bottom. There's more pressure on Daniel Levy than there's ever been before, which is great. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know where we go from here. Because to be honest with you, I checked out at the beginning of the season. Like, for me, I checked out when I wasn't following the transfers this summer, right? I didn't even know Odebert signed for Spurs until I saw him on the pitch. I had no idea who he was. I was like, who's this geezer?
I remember when you messaged. Yeah, I remember. Who's this?
I was like, who's this? And then, but like, when I saw that we signed Timo Werner again, it's like, that's what our ambition is, right? And Ange is accepting that. Like, if he's accepting that, that's on him, right? And I know we all know there's problems with the board, but look,
let Oren comment on that one, boy.
Yeah.
Oren. What you saying? Daddy's saying, listen, Ange is signing off on players like Timo Werner. Like, what? What we saying? Obviously, it's a loss against, as we've already said, Liverpool, Villa. Is it the tactics or is it the players? I always say it every week, right? Every week, I've got the same question. They're like, no, it's the players. It's not the tactics, or it's a bit of both.
So put it this way: it's like Liverpool lost the FA Cup against Plymouth, playing their second team. We are all aware of that. Now, imagine if Liverpool had to do that for the last 3 months, Champions League and Premiership. Where would Liverpool be right now if they were able to lose against Plymouth?
But would there be an improvement? There probably would be on the slot. Everyone's going to use that. Everyone's going to use that as an example. Everyone's going to use that as an excuse. But you don't know until they have 10 games together whether they'd improve or not. Nobody knows that.
Right. No one knows that. So you can probabilize. You can assume. I will assume that they would struggle. That's the benefit of this, right?
But it's not a similar comparison. If you
no. Let me finish. See, that's the thing. All 3 of you, George, DK, Marlon, Ash, all the fans on the thing, you can all assume, because that's what you do. I'm going to assume that they would struggle. I would say that any team struggles. So against Villa, against Liverpool, I thought that's probably the worst time to play those 2 teams. Villa or playing Liverpool at Anfield, Spurs were never going to win. The players went there, the experienced players didn't show up. And that's the thing that's costing Spurs right now. It's the experienced players, Eva Basuma, Bentancur, they just shelled up. Then against Villa, the players just looked dead. They were trying to pass and move and they couldn't. If I look at the Villa game and the Liverpool game, now people are going to laugh at me. I'm going to be called delusional. But what was the big difference? It's, of course, the easy thing to say, well, Liverpool have better players. Villa had better players. If I came out from a coma and didn't know about Salah or anything, I would see the big difference. Liverpool and Villa had players running for each other. Spurs couldn't. They didn't. Simple as that. They were trying, but they couldn't.
Why in the first minute? Oh, go on. He's going to.
Well, in the first minute, that's not really a team error. That was more Kingsley making a mistake. But of course, you know, fans have to say, well, it's all the team. Kingsley make a mistake. He made up for it.
But Orange, let's be honest here. 1 minute into a game, we shouldn't find any player in our box clean through to even have that type
that's
of
the thing.
opportunity.
That's the thing. We shouldn't. I'm a fan of Spurs. I don't go we. Yes, you're right. We shouldn't, but it's what happened. I base on reality. I don't base off what we shouldn't do.
I know, but the point is in reality, ideal situation.
That's what happened. In reality, that's what happened. It's not based on
I get that, but doing that reality and this isn't a reality is just pointless. We're sitting here talking about an ideal situation.
I'm not saying it's pointless. I'm saying that's what you can do. What I do, me personally, is look at reality. And in reality, but Spurs shouldn't have conceded that first goal. They shouldn't have, but they did. So how did they recover after that? Aston Villa was running through us, and again, I looked at that midfield, and I looked at the players, and I thought, they're just wrecked. They're knackered. They can't run anymore. As bad as it is that Spurs are at the FA Cup, and I know fans like yourselves will be, this is shit, let's blame the board, let's blame Ange, let's blame this, let's blame that, because we haven't won a trophy, and it's not like you've won trophies consistently, so you know what the feeling like to win a trophy in the first place, but that's what you guys think. Me, personally, I look at it and think, it's a fucking blessing in disguise.
Does Oren have a point? Does anyone think on this panel that
hold on. That's the point.
Wait, does anyone on this panel think that if Spurs had their fully fit team, or if Spurs played one game in 1 week, that they would be ready for Villa and they could beat Villa?
I don't think that's neither here or there. Like Oren said, let's focus on the facts. The facts is we knew the games were coming up. We knew that we were going to play 2 games in a week. We knew the squad that we had available and the players we had available prior to this, because we've had these same players available for the past 2 or 3 weeks, and we've been playing 2 games a week within that period. We played Brentford and Hoffenheim, or Brentford and Elfsborg just the week before, and we managed to handle those games and approach those games in the right way. Elfsborg was a closer one than it should have been, and maybe Brentford at times as well, but I'd say the Brentford game was a much more controlled defensive performance. So when you go into these games against Liverpool and Villa, Liverpool tried to take that approach, but then Liverpool, I'd say fair enough. Senior players definitely let us down. You look at Son, you look at Basuma, and you look at Bentancur and say there was no defensive stability there. You're supposed to lean on your senior players to give you that shield in front of the defense, and Basuma and Bentancur just didn't do that in that game. But when I look at the Aston Villa game, the approach was completely wrong. You can sit here and say that the fact that the players weren't running for each other and so on. Okay, but Ange knew that this was going to be the case. Ange knew that these players were tired. So you need to set the team up. You need to set the team up in a way that you can counteract that. And you played counter-attacking football like we did against Brentford.
Yeah, but
the players were tired against Brentford. We knew that.
But counter-attacking football is about defending, and then the players having to sprint.
Yes, but you have to burst forward. But the point was against. We didn't do either against Aston Villa. There was no structure in that midfield. The problem why they burst through us so often.
Yes, but that's what I'm trying to say to you.
Midfield structure, and it's
that's what I'm trying to say to you.
No, but Oren, you're talking about players. It's not about players moving for each other. It's about having 2 players or a player. Do
you understand how football works? Players moving for each other, as in not just only attacking, but
Oren, not all systems require players to fly forward.
No, I'm not talking about that. You're thinking flying forward. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about moving for each other, as in if a player Bentancur goes to cover something, then the other player will notice that and get in a position. But if a player's too tired to get back in that position, it's not going to happen. That's what I'm saying.
And then sometimes players need to know that you don't just cover play, you cover areas. As a number 6, who knows that knows that his fullbacks are going to fly into those inside positions.
The fullbacks weren't flying up.
But they was. I can show you pictures of Jed Spence and Pedro Porro on the edge of Aston Villa's box. That's what caused us to concede.
What was the score?
What was the
score? What was the score at the time? Was Aston Villa winning?
The point that the score doesn't matter, like you said. The reality
of course it matters, because
the reality was that these players are coming forward into those positions and then leaving us.
If you're the manager, since you're the manager and you know how to manage teams, what would you have done then?
This is the thing. You're not going to throw that at me. I've managed teams.
That's cool. That's what I'm asking you. So you managed teams. So what would you have told those players?
I would have said you get into a flat back four, and if you are going to have one of those players bomb forward in a Pedro Porro or Spence, you have one of them go forward, and what happens? The other central defensive midfielder would cover into that position at the back.
Right.
So then you always wait. Let me finish. If you're going to ask me a question, let me finish. There always is going to be a flat back four. On top of that, you should have had a double pivot where the other central midfielder would have covered that 6 space if the other fullback went flying forward. We have good enough players in that front line to take their man on and actually create something all by themselves, especially the one that we started with against Villa. Maybe Son had a really bad game and should have came off at half-time, but Mikey Moore can take on his man, so can Matisse Tell, and so can Kulusevski. You can leave those players with space to run and attack by themselves at times, rather than trying to pack out and compact the pitch, because that's what happens a lot of the time. We have far too many players in those attacking positions that none of them actually know what to do with the ball, so they just move it around for the fun until someone takes the responsibility to shoot. And then what happens? You get a Jed Spence or a Pedro Porro shooting from 25 yards out, and it's just going to nowhere.
How did Spurs score their goal against Villa?
Bro, it was in the 90th minute. No one cared about
No.
it. The goal was irrelevant at that point.
No, I'm not saying how did they score? Wasn't Perro being high up, passing it back to Kulusevski, who...
It was 91st minute. You were talking about being tired. Aston Villa were tired at that point. They didn't really care about playing.
Exactly. So Aston Villa were tired at that point. They didn't really care. So Spurs have been tired for pretty much the
But they had won
match.
the game at that point.
Their entire match. So what I'm saying is fatigue. If you've managed games, try to think about managing your team and having those players to play 90 minutes, 2 days, every single week. How would that work? So I get what you're saying, because the narrative around outside Spurs is let's blame Ange, let's blame the tactics, let's blame this, let's do this, let's this, constantly. What I watch is that these players are fatigued and tired. Ange's been playing the second team for the last 3 months, and even when he cracked up, he says, just show appreciation. That's all he's asking. Show appreciation. The players are hurting. Top of all that, mentally, physically tired as well. Constantly hearing the same.
All right, I've got a question for you then. So, obviously, we knew that 2 months ago they were mentally fatigued. So why did the club not help him in January then?
It's not as easy as saying, oh, they should just buy this player, buy this player. Ange kept on saying, we're not going to bring...
Yeah, but it's amazing.
We're not going to bring bodies. We're not going to bring bodies into the club. We're going to bring players in that fits the system.
Okay, so why is it then when Dragoshin got injured, all of a sudden we had a body all of a sudden in Danso?
Yeah, because they're probably looking at Danso and they're probably going to try and go for someone else, but they got him in. Wouldn't it have been worse if they looked at Danso and went, "Nah, we're not going to get him," and they didn't get cover?
Yeah, but if Dragoshin never got injured,
no,
do you believe Spurs would have signed him?
Yes, Spurs were looking for another defender anyway.
I want to look at
Spurs had already had their eye on Danso from the start of the window, but never made the move until the like day. What are we doing here? Come on,
that's not helping
because it was confirmed that Dragusin was not gonna. He was actually out, and then what else happened onwards from that? Oh, Van der Ven got re-injured, so they tried to get Axel Disasi, but they keep telling us that Van der Ven's not injured. Why did they push for Axel Disasi, who didn't want to come Spurs so much? He said no 3 times, but they kept pushing. Come on, man, this is all in front of you. You can't deny the facts.
But no. Yes, you're absolutely right. But that's the thing. I don't look at it as, you see, the thing is, maybe with fans like yourself, if a player says no to the club, you take it personal, right? Spurs went to get players that wanted to come to the club. They went for who's the guy that went for defender from AC Milan? He said no. So Spurs were looking at defenders and trying to get the right players in. Because if Spurs had went and signed any defender, and that defender comes to Spurs, makes a complete tits-up job, the narrative would be, oh, there you go, Spurs have just bought a defender. They haven't done their scouting. They haven't done their research. He's a fucking shit player. Daniel Levy's wasted money once again. So it's a double-edged sword.
Can I ask a question really quickly? Anyone can come on at any point, but we look at last season and we look at this season. We had injuries, obviously, last season, and Ange came out and he said, because we're playing once a week, we need to play more games, get into more rhythm, and once we play more games and we get into more rhythms, then the players will improve. This season, now he's saying, actually, we're overrun because we've got too many games, and that's the reason why we're having so much injuries. And I'm looking at the numbers just to drill down to the facts. I think Spurs are number 1 in terms of the amount of sprints that they complete across the league. So, like, which one is it? Is it like Ange's right that he needed more games per week, or is it no? Actually, it's this season's reason that we're playing too many games. Like, which one is it? Or is he just saying things in the press? Is he just talking? Like, do you know what I mean? And we shouldn't read into it too much. Anyone can answer. No one. I mean,
maybe someone else. I'm not going to take over.
Simon, what do you think? Let me ask Simon. Simon, if you unmute yourself.
Sorry, dude. Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think he needs games to get the players to buy into his methodology and the way he wants to play. And I think, on the other hand, also he wasn't fully equipped for this season. Knowing there's minimum 10, 12 games of the Europa coming in. We sell a load of experience. I know no one wants Holberg at the club anymore. Skip's gone. No one wants him to stay.
Just on that then. Sorry, Simon, to cut you.
Yeah, sorry.
Is Ange being backed? Has he been backed in your opinion?
I don't think so. No.
Because he's got Mickey van der. They got Vicario in, the goalkeeper. They got Mickey van der Ven, centre back. Then they bought Madison in, the number 10.
Yeah, I mean, his first season, I'd say, yeah, it was. But I think this summer just gone.
This summer, obviously, yeah. Of this summer, who else did he get? This summer, he got Solanke this season. He got, and then obviously he got the two new guys in Tell and Danso. So, what do you think's missing? Like, do you think he was backed sufficiently enough to complete what he needs?
That's what I think. I think for the summer, we sold all the experienced players and we brought in Solanke, who's the only kind of first team ready player to come in. Well, we've got more games than we had last season. So last season we saw the problems of the injuries with the way he plays and the high intensity and stuff. This summer we've got extra games coming in because of Europe, and he's brought in one first team ready player for him. League has or Lang has or Ange agrees with it, but I think we needed more players in the summer that were first team ready. I just think that the board employed him knowing how he plays. There's plenty of history out there showing his previous history of injuries at Celtic and the clubs before. The club knows the way he plays, and I just don't think they've brought in enough players to support his system, basically.
So just to put it into context, I think he's signed over 11 players in his reign. Which is, under most managers, I think it's probably the most a manager's ever got. So would you still say it's fair to say he wasn't backed, or he was backed? Because that's quite a lot of people. 11
a lot of those. Yeah, but a lot of those players are players for 2-3 years down the line. We weren't expecting to see Bergvall and Gray play as much as they have this season.
But didn't he say
Kingsky's potential, isn't he?
Didn't he come out and say that when remember they asked him, they were like, are you happy with the transfer window? And he's
not going to say no, is he?
No, but he came out and they said, like, I think there was like a press. One of the journals came out and they said the midfielders, they're actually happy. They're going to fast track the young boys because they're doing so well. But actually, Gallagher is not needed, or Ramsey's not needed, because they feel like Archie Gray and Bergvall, or Berryville, however you say his name, is sufficient enough.
Yeah, no, I get that completely, but I do think that's partly him retiring the party line. I know Conte spoke out a little bit, but generally, managers are not going to turn around and say
party line. Does that mean he's a yes man then, or not? If he's,
I think they all are to a point, aren't they? Until they've had enough, like Conte did. But I think up until a point, they're going to be yes men. But you can't expect him, I think, to turn around and say, "Do you know what, the transfer window was rubbish. I didn't get what I wanted, but we're going to crack on." Because, he'll be fired the next day. Look at Conte. As soon as he spoke the truth, he was out. So you either, I guess, it's a kind of, do you want him to stick by his principles and say, "Do you know what, this is rubbish, I quit," which is very honourable, but we don't live in an honourable world anymore, do we?
So do you, also, just a last point, do you think, Simon, if there was a manager lined up like tomorrow, would you still be like Ange in? Just to see where you are on this point, would you be like supposing there was a manager, I don't know, that you thought, oh, he'd be nice, like Pochettino, for example?
Xavi.
All right, Xavi. All right, Xavi. Those are Spurs fans that say Pochettino. They want Pochettino back. It's that way fans started singing his name. But like
Yeah.
an Inzaghi or a Xavi or a Pep, for example, was available. Would you still want Ange in, or would you want?
I mean, obviously, you're talking about like high level guys. If Pep was flirting with us, I'd be like, yeah, see you later, Ange, in your come, Pep. But that's not the reality, is it? We're probably, we're going to sack Ange and get someone in to steady the ship for 6 months. So who do we get? Do we get like a Moyes type in, and we go back to that terrorist football that Conte put us under? I don't know. I just I'm surprised he hasn't been sacked by now. If I'm honest, I'm really surprised. I was expecting it after Everton, expecting it definitely after the Liverpool Villa game, but I don't know. It's, if you're getting someone incredible in, I'm like, yeah. But the trouble is, whoever you bring in is going to have the same problems at the moment with injured players, tired players. So I'm just like, you know what, give him to the end of the season, and then maybe address it then. But I don't think he's. I don't think he's completely at fault for what's going on at the moment. That's just my opinion on injuries, fatigue, all that kind of stuff.
Does anyone think, Marlon? I ask anyone here, but does anyone think the reason why Ange gets so much love is because it's the style of play that people love?
Oh, for me, for sure.
And so, like, could we not get a manager that has a similar style of play, but has like a bit more adaptability?
What is so amazing about the style of play? Because look, for one, I'm not an Ange hater. This what, like, I don't know what people. People called me the Ange lover 2 weeks ago. They said I was the only one bigging him up. So like, no, I'm not an Ange hater at all. But what is so great about his football? Let's be honest now. It's very on the edge. It's very back and forth. It's basketball transition is all we've seen at Spurs. We just see it's the most literally stats by stats, the most high intensity way of playing football in and out of possession, whether you're attacking and defending. It's way more than any other team. So outside of it being, a back and forth game and maybe entertaining for a neutral, what is so amazing about Ange Ball? Because I don't like Conte. We're talking about actual intricacies of play and like attacking play. In the transition, Conte's teams were way better, and they actually looked a lot more efficient with the little 1, 2s, and 3s, and the way that they broke on teams. They were way cleaner than Ange's team has ever been.
Oren, what do you think, man? Do you think like the style of play is the reason why like most fans are hanging on to Ange as opposed to like getting rid of him? Is that the reason why he's still in the job, or he's got so much support?
No, I think it's because fans are. I think Ange's kept everything level-headed. Media is constantly jabbing him to want to crack up and get angry, and he did break a little bit. But I think fans are realizing that what the team's going through, and they want to give him a chance. No doubt. You see, if Ange had the full starting 11 and then had the full squad, not even a full squad, even if had like 20 fit players, and this was the case, he would have been gone by now. No matter what, he would have been gone. What's saving Ange is the fact that you can't get away from the fact that, yes, these players have been injured for so long, and he still kept it going. And it's kind of like, I think what I think people like about Ange is the fact that he's just positive about keeping going, and he's logical as well. He doesn't.
So is it the character people buying into then? Is it more like
I think well, it's a bit of a double edge, because I think people like him because of his character, and I think people don't like him because of his character. It's like you're always going to get the two, and I think a lot of people. It's almost because I've been watching like a lot of media interviews, and I think a lot of if Ange was to do what Conte did or Jose did, I think that they'd be like, yes, he's talking about Levy, blah, blah, blah. But because Ange's not doing that, it's like a lot of people who don't like Daniel Levy and want him to blame Daniel Levy are starting to go, come on, just do it. And they're not liking it, because Ange's not going to back down. He's not going to say what fans want him to say. And I think the fact of the matter is, like, we've seen glimpses of what Spurs can play like and what the team can play like. We've seen glimpses. And I said it, I think it was the last stream. I still don't think that the Ange system has been fully supplemented or been put in place. Still, because of injuries from last season, and even getting the right players in. Because I do think, like last season, Marlon, we were talking about Conor Gallagher, and you didn't want him at the club at all, and I was like a bit okay. But now I think maybe you could see why Ange wanted a Conor Gallagher. Now Chelsea would never going to sell him to Spurs, never in a blue moon. But you can see why, and I do think that
I think the Disasi deal's kind of thrown that out of the water because Chelsea and Spurs have had an agreement for Disasi. So right now we can all say Tottenham and Chelsea will deal with each other.
Okay, fair enough. Well, maybe that's the case, but I do think that there is a glaring issue when I watch that Spurs team, and it is a true midfielder who can be organised. Bentancur's not quick enough. He gasses after a while. Bissouma, I don't know what the flip's happened to him. He's just gone off the boil. And, Ashmatic, you were looking at what was that guy from? He plays in Spain, the young guy. So remember the black guy? He's like really tenacious. I think like if Spurs was to get a player like that, it would work. Now, if you look at Kevin Dunzo and Till, they're exactly what Ange wants. They're aggressive. They're on the front foot. They're brave. I mean, Till came on against Liverpool and he was waving players on. And like you're thinking, flip me. He's 19 years old. He doesn't want players that are going to be shelled up. He wants players who are going to be brave on the ball, making those passes. And I think that's what Spurs need to figure out and look and bringing in a player who can do that in the central midfield area. And I don't think Ange's going to get sacked this summer. I think next season, if this is the same predicament, he will be gone. But I do think Spurs will, and Daniel Levy will say, give him another year. Sign the 4-year contract, give him another year. Because if Spurs was to sack a manager, the media will be, well, there you go, another manager sacked. It's disgraceful. It's this, it's that, the ring around. So I think that Daniel Levy is not going to sack Ange. If he would have done it, he would have done it before Christmas. So I think Ange has next year. And I think Ange will get players in. Spurs will look to get the right players in.
What? Just to say something, Ash. With Ange, right, his style of play is not sustainable when you're in 4 competitions and you're playing 2 to 3 games a week every season when you don't have all the players at that level, right? The reality is Spurs are never going to get a full squad full of.
We need a Man City squad.
Yeah, basically we need a Man City squad, right? You need a high level squad who you can rotate and it doesn't drop the level or quality of the quality of player when you do rotate a player. And that's the problem. Like Ange is not adaptable, right? And that's what the most frustrating thing is for Spurs fans, is because he tries to play the same way regardless of who we play. And the problem is that as we've seen this season, teams are figuring out how to play against Spurs. How many times have I watched a player or a manager this season say they know how to play against Spurs? Like I've seen interviews after matches, right, of the players and the managers, and they say, "Yeah, we know how we're going to play against Spurs." It's just, all the commentators are saying it now as well. It's like everyone knows how to play against us. It's like they figured us out. It was so easy to figure us out. And the other issue is, right, if we're being honest, our squad is a mid-table squad at best, right? That is it, right? Our players are nowhere near. If you look at where our squad was 5 years ago, right, and you look at our first 11 and compare it to our first 11 now, it's night and day, right? Over the last 5 years, we've just gone progressively worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, right? That's what's happened. And people fans are expecting more. I actually said at the beginning of the season, right, when I saw that window, I was like mid-table at best. That's what I thought, right? Because of the way also the season ended. Like it was up and down. Our performances last season were awful after that Chelsea result. After that first 10 games, it was so bad. It was inconsistent. It was terrible. And this is one of the worst starts we've had in over like 25 years in Spurs in the Premier League, right? It's just
Danny, that's the point though. I want to know everyone's opinion. What was your expectations going into the season after we finished 5th? Where did everyone have us? Like, because obviously Danny said he's had us mid-table.
I was thinking if we're going to push, I reckon we would have thought maybe 7th at the very best, right? And because if you look at it, Ash, just to add one more thing, right?
Yeah.
for me, it's like when you look at like now this season, right? Basuma, unfortunately, he's just dropped off a cliff. Like he for the first 10 games of last season, he was an animal, and then since then he's just been so hot and cold. It's unbelievable, right? I think with him, there's a lack of. It's a bit of like the Ndombele syndrome, where he feels like he's a bit too big for his boots, and he thinks he's better than he is without putting the full application. And I think his head is somewhere else. To be honest with you, I don't think it's on the football pitch.
I think he's lost his bravery. I'll be honest with you.
But I think it's a lot of things he's lost: his confidence, his bravery. Because when he was showing his ability at Brighton, and when he was showing it the first 10 games last season, he was looked like one of the best midfielders in the league. And
But
it's just
it's a point where
gone.
Marlon actually brought up a point where actually Bissouma was in a system where it kind of favoured him because I think
True.
Potter was able to coach him a lot of the time.
True.
So he had a player that was next to him that was like well versed in the double pivot, and then also you had a system where it hid his flaws, so we didn't really see a poor Bissouma.
That's
But
true.
when you put Bissouma on a team and you're like, all right, just go and express yourself, because I'm assuming that's what Ange Ball is about, like players having almost like a football IQ where they go and express themselves wherever the space is, they go and exploit it. Even if they lose the ball, they need to know where to be on the pitch, and it's all down to the autonomy of the players rather than dictated by a system. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's where we saw the fall off of some of these players, like Papa Sarr's IQ. You know what I'm trying to say?
He just looks like all Papa Sarr's got is an engine at the moment.
That's it. You know what I'm saying? Even the fullbacks. If you look at some of the fullbacks, you look at their understanding of where to be on the pitch, decision making.
Do you know what? Yeah, you're right, Ash. And what I see the biggest problem is at this moment in this team is that there's no confidence within their own abilities, the players, right? Because
Isn't that down to the manager though to get the best out of
course it is.
Yes.
That's 100% down to Ange, right? Because at this moment, right, we're losing every single game in the midfield. That's where we're losing it the most, right? We're just getting torn apart because it's like we're not even there. And when you look at the three midfielders who have been playing, right, Bentancur has, since he's come back from his injuries, he's just not been the same player, right? If you look if you look at Sarr and you look at Maddison and none of them have hit the levels they need to be playing at, right? Or even half of the levels they were playing at last season. But what you see in this season is players that are not confident, losing the ball all the time, right? The amount of times the Spurs players are losing the ball, it's like a game of pinball. It's like we go out the pitch halfway up the pitch and we lose the ball, and we go off the pitch, we lose the ball.
I do hear it. But there is a world where, and I'll bring Jordan in as well, because there is a world where we do play Man United, we do play Ipswich, and we do play Man City, and potentially those are teams we could beat. I know we didn't beat Ipswich this season, but potentially the next 3 games we could be having 9 points and the conversation could look really different. And I remember after the Brentford game, we had that win. And I think that's why a lot of fans were optimistic about Liverpool and even Aston Villa and doing well in the Cups.
Yeah.
Because we were...
It's the way we set up, the way how defensively resolute we was against Brentford. Like you pointed out, Ash, like we managed to bat everything they had away. They never really created a clear-cut opportunity, apart from when they'd done a few crosses and had a few flick-ons in the box. They didn't actually break through our defense and break through the lines. The problem in every other game, part with Fulham, like Daniel's pointed out, is it's the midfield. There is no midfield. And I've literally got a graph up in front of me. I probably won't be able to show the camera, but look, you can see very briefly.
I'll send it to me. I'll put it up, man.
I'll send it over to you. Yeah, it shows the difference in the positions of the players from this season to last season. And you can see how much our midfield has been exposed this year. And it's by design. And that's when I sit here and think, and it's like, people are going to say, oh, it's not Ange's fault. It's not Ange's fault. But it has to be Ange's fault, because by design, we now have one midfielder. But with that one midfielder and that holding midfielder, I'll just send it over to you on WhatsApp. Yeah. You can see that we don't have a number 6. Tottenham do not have a capable number 6. Basuma's decision making, Conte pointed it out, tactically, he was the only player that could not keep up tactically with everyone else. So clearly his decision making and his football IQ is questionable. And then you look at Bentancur, it's just very clear to see he's a bit too rash. He's got that South American about him where he just wants to fly into a challenge and wants to rush forward into the pitch, similar to Romero. So you can't play him in the 6 because he just doesn't have the positional discipline. So we have no players that play in a 6, but we've decided that the system we play this year has a 6 and everyone's forward. And that's where the problem for me lies. Like, it is literally what you've said there, Ash. Yeah, is we're not leaning on players' strengths. We're not actually trying to coach players and be like, this is what you're good at. Let's focus on what you're good at, rather than just, yeah, you're gonna do this role, square pegs in round holes. That's exactly what we've been doing all season.
But
That is it.
isn't
And
there
it's
a case
funny,
though?
Oren, you're laughing, but like
I
you
am laughing
literally
because
you have to
it's
look at you, because I've seen quotes come out. You look at Brennan Johnson, they say, and maybe this isn't just on Ange, this is on his coaching team, but again, this is something Ange has control of. These are his coaches, Miles Jedinak, Matt Wells, all these inexperienced people that don't even have 10 years in football behind them at a top level is the reason why we're in this position. Ryan Mason to Brennan Johnson early in the season, when you get into the attacking position, don't look up, don't look where players are, just spray it across the box. What do you mean? The whole art of having good decision making in the final third is looking up and knowing what is better to do, what is the options in front of you.
Yeah,
and if you're telling a player not to make that option and just to make that pass, yes, I get the intent is to put it into a dangerous area, but with a player that doesn't even have a good final third ball, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. The coaching
right. So
is not there.
basically, if you're in the coaching pitch, you're seeing these players training all the time. So I would think that Ryan Mason will know a lot more about Brendan Johnson than you, because you're not seeing Brendan Johnson in the training pitch.
That's just neither here or there.
That's the facts. That's the facts. Let me finish.
People say
Let me finish. Because you're
players just as much.
Let me finish. Right. So Brendan Johnson, when I've seen him, when he doesn't have to think, that's when he produces his best work. So when Mason is saying, right, don't look up, because when you look up, you're going to complicate yourself, because you're saying, who am I going to pick out? And you're going to fluff it. Drill that ball across the box. Drill it, hit it, and now that relies on Song or whoever is playing or whoever's striker or whoever's coming in to then anticipate that, because that's they're working with the players and thinking, right, like Kuleveski, for example. I've noticed that Kuleveski, he never attacks the ball. Next time you watch Kulu, he never goes towards the ball. He will let the ball bounce, and then he stands and waits, which allows another defender to get in front of him. Now, whether that's down to fatigue or whatever else, but Ash was on the point there. When those players cross the line, it's use an analogy. If you have a personal trainer, your personal trainer can only take you so far. He will tell you what to do. He will encourage you in the gym. But if you then go home and drink a KFC or balls of Coke and KFC bucket, and then come to him and go, listen, mate, I'm not losing weight. So that basically the players then have to get across the pitch. They have to make decisions on the pitch. They're professional players. That's what they do. Everybody, the job that I go to, my boss is not leaning over me all the time going, do that, do that, do that. I have to make decisions, because that's what my experience is based on. The whole thing you just talked about there, and DK talked about, was the midfield, which I said is the issue. That's the biggest issue for Spurs, the midfield. In previous years, they had Dembele, they even had Dyer, they had Wanyama. Those were tenacious, aggressive front foot players. Bentancur and Bissouma aren't those players. They want to sit back and wait, which creates more problems. And they're not communicating, they're not talking. So I fully agree that it doesn't matter what tactics you set up. If your midfield is not good, you're going to struggle. And even with the inconsistencies, I would think that if you look at those inconsistencies, it's usually when Bentancur and Iva Bissouma is played, because teams, they're just like against Aston Villa was the same thing. Even against Liverpool, Bentancur was just lackadaisical on the ball, didn't really do anything. And I was thinking, he has no pace. He is slowed right down. And against Aston Villa was the same thing. And I'm just thinking, right, you have two experienced players who are there. I mean, Iva Bissouma was part of the leaders group at one point. Then he fucked that all up because he decided to take helium balloons and do all that stupid stuff. So I'm looking and thinking, right, this summer, Spurs should go out, if they can, and buy a real top midfielder. And I'm not saying that would fix everything straight away, but it will certainly help with what's going on. I think that's what Ange needs. He needs a solid midfielder who will organise the two in front of him, or being able to say, right, no, you drop back a little bit and communicate. Because Ange's not on the pitch. There's only so much he can do. And I look at these players and I'm thinking, right, where's the communication? Where's the talking to each other? And I'm not seeing it at all.
So is that a confidence thing then? Like, would you say?
Well, it must be. Well, they're hiding. I know
And if
Paul
they're
Merson
hiding,
says,
then isn't like Ange got to drop a couple players then and say, look.
but that's the thing. They know they can't be dropped. You're gonna play, kids. That's the thing. It's like,
You don't think Son could be dropped if Son's not performing in that position? And
Song.
do you think Tel could play on the left? Do you know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. But who are you gonna now play at the striker? Because Richarlison's gone now.
I don't know. So I don't know if people
That's the thing.
agree.
It's like I think that if Spurs had Odegaard and Warner, I think Song
Or no,
would not have been
actually,
playing as
you know
much.
what? Just on that, like, do people agree with Tel not playing the number 9 role and Son playing the number 9? Does anyone agree with that? Like how we
Yeah.
set up?
So Son should play the number 9 because
I
Nah,
think he should.
I think that's
number 9.
no. I think Son is awful in the 9. But if you want to lean on your best players' abilities, let's be honest. Son doesn't give us anything out on the left. Tel will give us something out on the left. Tel runs at his man, and you talk about the Ange system. The Ange system requires 2 touchline wingers to be able to get on the ball and run down the wing and create. If you haven't got that, then essentially you're taking out one whole side of the game. Sonny, I get in the middle, really offers nothing. And to be honest, I don't want him to try to do the slanky job where he's going to drop in deep, try pick up the ball, tap it in and go. If he's going to play in the 9, he should be playing off of the shoulder, making runs in behind like he did it for Conte. Those inside runs, or maybe drifting off from the left into the middle and making inside runs. That's where coaching comes in. You talk to your players and how you want to play certain roles.
I get you, but like if you look at how Song under Conte, because Song did have a bad spell under Conte as well, and you compare him to now, Song has lost space. He's not the same. He's not fast. So I get what you're saying about number 9. I was all for Song playing number 9 a couple of seasons ago, but now I look at Song and I think there's a couple of moments. I think it was at Liverpool or Villa when it was Song 1-on-1, and normally he would beat that player, leave him for dead. He couldn't. He just couldn't. Whether he's bulked up. It's weird. I think Song has bulked up. He's finally
bulked up.
But no. Let me clarify that. Like if you look at Song years ago, he was always slim. I'm not saying he's a bodybuilder now, but I think he's just like filled out, and that slowed him down.
It's called getting older and putting on weight. It's getting
fatter.
fatter.
Well, even that. Yeah. So he's put on weight. He's lost his speed. So I think that more likely Song needs rest. He needs to sit a couple of games out. Though it's like you can't really do that. And I do think that Till is a number 9. I think he's been more aggressive. He'll be able to hold the ball up and do far more, and maybe getting behind. So I think Song needs rested, but that's the thing. Who do you rest him for?
So does anyone think that Son could go on for another 2 years, or do people think this should be his last season? Does anyone?
It depends, Ash. It depends because personally, I don't want to see Son as a striker because he has not got it. I think Tel, if you look at how Tel scored the goal on the other day against Aston Villa, he was playing centrally. That's where he scored the goal, and the touch for that goal was pretty good, right? Personally, I think Son is better on the left. As much as he's still not good enough on the left, I'd rather him there than I see him up front, because up front he can't hold the ball up, he can't do anything. He's not fast anymore. Tel is quick and he's strong. Tel actually is a quite strong young lad, so I would rather him any time.
Do you know the problem, Danny, is when you watch Tel in that Liverpool game where he started in the 9 or come in the 9. He wants to get him because he's young as well. Naturally, he wants to get involved in the game. Yeah. He wants to touch the ball. He needs touch point. He's not going to play the 9 the way we want him to. He's going to consistently drop deep so he can pick up the ball. Or if he's not getting the ball and he's dropping deep, he's going to drift off to the left-hand side or onto the wings because that's where he's going to get space on the ball. So I feel like naturally he's going to drift and he's not going to be the 9 that you want. Whereas Sonny, I feel like if you tell him and coach him and tell him stay in that position, just run off the shoulder of the last man, beat that man to that ball when it does come across the box, like he did against Villa, because the one chance he did get, he was through. He just gets in front of his man, and that's what Sonny used to do.
That's the problem with George though. He's not on form. He's got no confidence whatsoever. That goal, that one that he had against Villa, that chance, he should have put that in the back of the net. That's an open goal for Sonny. And for me, the reason I don't want him there is because he looks like he's going to miss more than he's going to actually score at the moment. And when you've got someone who is not taking your chances and your confidence is completely shot, you need to try and put someone there to try and, a difference, because I don't know. It's just, I just think, personally, I think the whole reason why we brought Tel in is to play him as a striker. That's That's just what I think. But I don't know. It's just there's so much wrong with what's going on at this club at the moment, and it's just I don't know. It's like whatever he does, it's gonna either backfire or it's gonna work, and then it's gonna be like one of those hindsight things where we should have played him there and it didn't work there, or we win a game and see, look, it worked because he played that player in that position. It's kind of like that. It's just no matter what he does at the moment, there's always going to be a negative and a positive to it, and it's just. Yeah, I don't know. Like my personal opinion is, I want to see Tell up front. That's just where I want to see him, because I just think Son up front is just he just can't do anything at the moment.
Yeah, like agree as well, and like George and like strikers dropping back because Harry Kane used to drop deep as well, but they only even Solanke has dropped deep, but strikers only do that when they're starved of the ball and they're not getting in position. So again, I think Maddison maybe coming back will help Till because he will spot that run. He will make those passes. Well, he should do anyway. Whether he does it or not is a different story. And I think that's even Kevin Dunzo. Like I think like looking at him, I think there's a player as well who, out of the two games, yes, there's not much to shout about. But I was looking at Kevin Dunzo and I thought that's a proper defender. That's exactly the defender.
What do you not make of Kingski? Because obviously, I think you guys are happy with Tell, innit? By the sounds of it, you not think he's going to do all right this season? I know there's a few people, not in the chat, but in the fan base that don't really believe in Tell yet. They're still got question marks.
He's going to do well. It's his attitude.
It's a question marks about him. But no, I wouldn't say Tell's attitude because he went out to a fan afterwards and was like showing them love. I saw that.
No. What I mean is like when he against Liverpool when he come on, he was waving. He's aggressive. He's like, come on, let's go. That's what I mean. Like it's like let's go.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
He'll never stop trying. Yeah.
But yeah, but back to
what is doing good though, Ash? Because I guess that's where the definition comes from. He's a 19-year-old who's very young. So like some people have an expectation, some don't. I'd be of the thought that I don't have much of an expectation from him. If he comes in and scores 5 goals, gets 2 assists.
But the thing is, George, we need someone that can work now. He's on a 4-month or 5-month loan. We haven't got a lot of the season left. And to help this team, we need someone that can like hit the ground running. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I get
what you mean, but when we're saying
about 19-year-old,
just to add to George's thing, you're saying that. However, this is the club that when you've been asked to help Ange, this is the sort of signing that we end up coming with. If he does good, it looks great. But actually, in reality, Spurs should have signed someone that was a bit more experienced to help Ange. If we're looking at it, someone, yeah. So at the end of the day, you've got to look at it and go, if George is right, if he only scores 5 goals, he's 19. What do we expect from him? We're not expecting much from Archie Gray. We're not expecting much from Odegaard because these are young lads. They're not, they're not for the game. When Orin says about the, where he was bringing players on, this is because he's been at Bayern Munich. They would only accept that. So that's what he's bringing. That's the experience he's bringing. Apart from that, we've seen Tell in the last 2 games. I'm not expecting much from him for the rest of the season, if I'll be honest, because it all depends. We're not the strengths that he has, that ball at the end, especially when he scores. How many times do we realistically do that in a game?
Do we not need someone that scores like 10? I know it's unrealistic, but 8 to 10 goals, like to help us with the rut, because obviously Solanke's he's done, innit? Well, not done, but Solanke got injured.
Solanke's back.
But when Solanke comes back, real talk, when he comes back, he's going to need a few games to kind of get back into the rhythm, and he needs help. Let's be honest with you. We can't just rely on Solanke to help us get through this type of rut. We need other players to step up. And in that window was an opportunity to kind of really bring someone in that's going to help Spurs in that front. But this
is why I'm not 100. Look, I know I kind of lost my head after the Arsenal game with Ange, but I look at it and I go, he asked for help, and they only gave him help when it became desperate, and that's the reality of it. Danso, I don't care what anyone says. Danso is only here because Dragusin got injured. The Gahey bid and all the rest of the bids have only become because don't even mention it earlier. It's because of the Van der Ven. So when things become that desperate, that's when Spurs react. And unfortunately, everyone's going about tiredness. And I know Oren won't admit this, but this is where the ball come into play and Lange and all those, because Ange was asking for help. And it's either you go, well, they've given you the help, now go and do something, which he hasn't yet, or you look at it and go, well, it's got to be one or the other. It's got to be one or the other, because if you really think Ange he's sent out a message and not one person, the fact that we signed a goalkeeper and waited 28 days before we got anyone else in, you've got to look at it and go, and he asked for help back in the beginning of January. It's slightly ridiculous.
I said this the last time, Marlon, and it was David Potter. I don't know if you can go and watch on YouTube. He was asked about signings and transfers. When are you going to sign a player? And he said, anyone can sign a player. You can sign a player. There's agents everywhere looking to widen deal. There's 1,000 agents out there. There's 1,000 players. You can go to the Conference League. You can go to some Argentinian lower league. You can sign a player. But signing a player that's right for the system and right for the club, that's completely different. So
okay,
bringing in, Ange even said,
Dragshin got injured one day. 2 days later, they brought in Danso. I'm going to tell you now, Danso. So they obviously always have the right. They've got players there. They at the end of the day, the club will know who they want. Lange will probably, and I'm going to say this, Lange will probably, right, everyone's having a go at Lange, but I bet you any money, when he leaves this club, and I'm going to say this now, and you can quote me, he will come back and he will go be on TV and saying, I brought Daniel Levy, this guy, and something happened along the way. Because every single director of football has done it.
Of course they have, because, it's either they have to throw someone under the bus to make them look like they try to do the best that they can, but we don't know the conversation that actually happened. And basically, the thing is about, I get the frustration for Spurs fans, like Spurs should be getting this player. But Spurs aren't Man City. And I don't know why fans aren't accepting this. They're never going to be Man City. They're never going to operate. They're not going to go out and spend 60 million on this player, 70 million on this player.
That's what they did.
No, they did.
Come on, Solanke was 60 million. Right? Let me finish. No. Hear what. Listen to what I said instead of hearing me. They're not going to go out and spend 60 million on a player, 50 million on a player, another 60 million on a player, all at the same time.
Okay, Archie Gray was 40 odd million.
That's 40 million. That's not 60 million. Okay, let me rephrase it. 40. Spurs are not going to go out and spend.
Semenyo was 40 mil. Semenyo was 40 mil available.
They're not going to go out and spend like all that, like the way Man City spend to bring players in.
Well, Man City don't spend like that. Only this window they've spent. I get the point that you're making, Orin.
Exactly. So if you get the point that I'm making, that's the point I'm making. Spurs they've never done that. They've never done that structure.
North Man City.
As long as I was supporting Spurs,
now
I never expected Spurs to go and bid 100 million for a player. It's never going to happen.
Oren, that's not the problem at Spurs. That's not the problem. The problem is they don't buy the right quality player. They go for the play. The problem we have at Spurs is that they don't want to break the wage structure. That's the problem.
But the right quality player is up to that player. That's what I believe.
No. The biggest problem at Spurs is the wage structure, because they don't want to break it. They don't want. They're not going to. Exactly. Aston Villa have got a higher wage structure than us, because they pay the players more money. That's why places like Aston Villa now are becoming a much more attractive club than Spurs. Right? Okay. 5 years ago, all the top players would have come to Spurs. All the top youngsters would have come to Spurs. Right? The reason why is because what I think is happening is that I think. This is my conspiracy theory. I think Levy's been trying to lower the expectations of the Spurs fan base for a number of years now, because of the overachievement of what Pochettino did when he overachieved by getting to the Champions League final. I think that was never the aim of what they did, and because he went beyond where any Spurs fan thought we would be, right? It kind of raised the expectations for the Spurs fans, but that's not the level Daniel Levy wants to operate at, and this is why I think like. If you look at the players that we are signing, none of them are players that you look at and be like, wow, he's a very, very good player. He's a top player. They're like, yeah, all right. Maybe he's a youngster. He might turn good, but there's no actual quality. You've got other teams, right, in the top 10 now who are signing more ready-made players than we are at the moment.
What exactly is a ready-made player? to you?
You know what that is? It's a
No,
player
I'm
that's
asking. I'm asking.
all
Do you
right.
know this
It's a
already
player
good
with many years of experience at the Premier League or another top level league. So
Right.
whether that's League One, whether that's Serie A, and that's competing in Europe. That's a player that's played 3 or 4 years, and if they've not competed in Europe, they're one of the best players in their team. I.e., a Semenyo at Bournemouth, who maybe hasn't played Europe, but he's definitely the best player in his team or one of the. So when you look at players and the ones that we've actually signed, we're trying to become like the most expensive nursery in London. Like we're trying to bring in all the youngsters, invest in them early. You know, let's get in. Look, Matisse Tell, we're trying to spend potentially 60 million euros on him. What you tell me? What even qualifies Matisse Tell to be a 60 million euro signing? When like
the club that's selling him. That's what.
Okay,
that's the
but
value.
then there's a
Kane deal, bro.
Antonio Semenyo.
It's the Kane deal. Come on.
There's a
Right?
Semenyo that you can do.
So here's the thing. Because this is what the Till thing. I watched the whole Till thing. The saga was really interesting. It was funny. Till rejected Spurs. Fans went nuts. Had a fucking meltdown. Daniel Levy, he rejected Daniel Levy, ball count, whatever. Then Till signs for Spurs, and it's like, what are Spurs doing signing a 19-year-old kid? So it's like if a player rejects Spurs, Daniel Levy's an idiot. But if Spurs sign the player and the player doesn't do something amazing every game,
well, don't you think he is an idiot? Because, like you said already,
no, he's not. He's not an idiot.
No. Wait.
He's not.
No, the basic rules of signing a player is you speak to the player agent before the club. Who goes to agree a deal with a club first before even speaking to a player agent and be like, oh, do you think he's going to want to come here? That is poor
obviously
business.
He did, yeah, because he spoke to the player.
Apparently,
and the player said no.
But he done that
come.
after they agreed the deal with Bayern. And as Ash mentioned, the only reason we agreed the deal with Bayern is because of the Kane money. So it wasn't like they wanted the player; they wanted a player that played for Bayern. That was
George.
the deal.
Apparently, Lango was crying, didn't it? He's saying Lango was crying. Please come.
The actual news that did come out was Johan Langer done the first presentation, wasn't convinced, so he called Daniel Levy to do a second presentation, and that even turned Tell away even more, because a few hours after the Daniel Levy presentation, that's when he said no. He said, no, I don't want to come to this club. So what was Daniel Levy selling him? Was he selling him the concerts? Did he say you could see Kendrick Lamar in July? Is that what he was selling him?
Till just looked at the project and thought, no, I don't want to come to Spurs at this moment in time because of where the club is at. The league, the noise that's going around it. But then he changed his mind and now he's at the club. So therefore, Till, and I actually said it, because a lot of, during the transfer window, people were saying, oh, the club is doing this, the club is doing that, they're not doing enough. And I'm thinking, what player would want to come to Spurs right now? You have the manager constantly being criticized by his tactics, constantly being criticized that the reason why Spurs are playing the way they are with the injuries because of him. Fans want him out. Some fans want him in. You've got the chairman who's constantly getting booed, having flags said, leave you out. If you're a player and you get the chance to go to Spurs, do you look at that and go, oh, that's going to be great?
So it's got nothing to do with the league position. It's all because of the fans, yeah? Nothing to do with that.
No, of course the league position. Of course.
Yeah, but no,
yes.
you just said, you just blamed the whole thing on the fans there and did not mention.
No, of course it's the league position.
One bit.
Of course it's the league position. I don't need to mention the league position.
Because if we were fourth, right, and would the fans be saying Levy out? Would they be getting criticised? When we had Conte and no one still liked Levy, why were we able to sign players then?
Who? Benton Kuleveski, who was signing the very last couple of days. 2 players
still came.
Yeah, they still came. Same with the players that
Spurs
signed this season.
We almost pulled
signed 3 players this season.
Prior to that,
say no, though.
Diaz still was pretty much
and Luis Diaz was meant to sign for us as well.
Yeah, but then Liverpool went and hijacked the deal.
Because Spurs fluffed around with money, as we always do.
It's exactly the same with what Spurs did to
Wolves. But you mentioned fans. What I'm trying to get is, you mentioned fans first, but didn't think that actually it's got something to do with the position we're in. It has nothing to do with the fans.
Marlon, I shouldn't need to say that because obviously that's
what you've come out with. Your words.
Right. Okay. Let me re-say it. Yeah. What player would want to come to Spurs when Spurs are 15th, right, or 14th? All the fans are against, and most of the fans are against the chairman. Is that better? Is that what? Should I pinpoint every single detail just to make sure?
But it's not because of the fans, though. Because it's not. The fans have nothing to do with the player wants to come or not.
Yes, it is.
No,
You're telling me you would go to a hostile club?
How many players have Manchester United signed? How many players have Manchester United signed? And they're in the worst. Worst predicament.
Their fans haven't been as bad as the Spurs
Yes,
fans.
they have.
No, they haven't.
What?
When have you ever seen? When have you ever seen? No, listen. When have you ever seen United holding banners up? When have you seen United holding banners up on the ground saying the German?
Every single week, Glazers out, Glazers out.
No, they're not holding banners up.
No, Orange, it's not
Orange, go watch.
definitely
Orange, go Google. Just go Google.
Did United not get a new manager? They got it. They sacked Ten Hag and got a new manager.
But they still want Glazers out.
What I'm saying, they got Amrabat in, but I've spoken to Manchester United fans. They have nothing to do. They say the Glazers are the Glazers. That's whatever it is. Ten Hag was a manager.
Did you rate Ten Hag?
Did I rate Ten Hag?
Did you rate Ten Hag as a manager? Do you think he should have got sacked? Sorry, do you think he should have got sacked? Or do you think the United fans were being ungrateful? Spoiled.
Ten Hag was never going to make it at United. No manager's going to make it at United. It's a poison chalice. Even I think Ruben, he'll be sacked within next season.
Do you think he should have got sacked?
Do you think? That's the question.
Do I think he should have got sacked?
Yeah. Tell me a lot of things.
I don't know.
It's a tough one, isn't it? It's tough.
Because I don't watch United enough. Though at the same time, has United improved? No. If I had to be pushed, no. I don't think he should have got sacked. I don't like to see managers get sacked. I don't think. I mean, Spurs have. I've been a Spurs fan long enough to see Spurs getting sacking managers after sacking managers, and for the first time in a long time, they're actually sticking with them.
Is it a personal thing for you, or is it a football thing? Because I want to understand, like, in terms of like Jermaine Defoe came out in the FA Cup. I don't know if you were watching it on the BBC.
Yes, I saw that. I actually saw the clips.
And at half time, he said, if you've got the right structure, if you've got the right setup, then you haven't got to run around as much.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah.
If you actually look at the stats, some of the stats for the amount of how much the players run is insane compared to other teams. And there was
this is what I'm saying. This thing about tiredness, I'm not too sure if it's 100% true. I'm just talking objectively now.
No,
when I was watching the game, just tactically, I would see it's not just about the fullbacks jumping, but because the way we set up, we used Kulusevski as an attacking midfielder or an 8, whatever you want to call it, and then Bergvall, he didn't really sit. He also jumped, and I saw them jump at the same time at times. And then when players like McGinn, when players like Tielemans, when players like Morgan Rogers, even Ramsey, when he created a box midfield in the 4, when they got on the ball and they turned, they took out our midfield straight away. And then that left Bentancur by himself. Now, Bentancur, a thing I've noticed about when Ange sets up his teams, the distances between players, meaning how much space you have to get before you reach the opponent, and it's so great. So that was the issue with with Porro. Porro had to run and cover so much distance to close his man down that he was late in the challenge. Same thing that happened with Bentancur in the second goal, from my opinion, from what I saw. Bentancur was too far away from Tielemans. Tielemans is able to poke that ball through into Marlon, and then Marlon's able to get on a turn, find I think it was Ramsey. Was it Ramsey? No, it was it was
Rogers.
No, it wasn't even Rogers. It was Bailey.
Okay.
Bailey was able to run on the outside, and then obviously they managed to cut the ball across the box, and then Rogers ends up scoring the goal. Do you know what I mean? But I'm just talking about that setup where I'm saying, rather than maybe starting and I think that's the reason why he took Mikey more off. Because I was going to ask people, do you not agree with him taking Mikey more off? Do you know what I mean? Because
should have been
that was Ange's decision.
It should have been
Mikey more. Yeah, because I thought someone on Kulu, they would have been more of the tired.
And the thing is if you're talking about tired legs, Kulu's played more minutes than anyone in our team, barring Pedro Porro, all seasons. Never been injured. He's played literally 90 minutes in near enough every Premier League game. If you're looking at any player to rest, it should have been Kulu coming out of that squad. Yes, I get what he adds to us attacking. He's our best attacking player, but at the same time, you're talking about like tired legs and fatigue. You're literally, Kulu and Porro are an injury waiting to happen. I would not be surprised they get injured in the next game.
George, you know, Kulu's covered more distance than any Premier League player in the Premier League. He's also created more chances than anyone else, right? In Premier League. And the other thing as well is that he's played 39 times this season. 39 times, right? Porro was, I think I saw the stat today, it was like 35 times he's played. And it's like what you saw in the first half of the season with Kulusevski was that he was flying, right? He was our best player. And then as soon as we started dropping, as soon as November came, we started dropping like injuries, dropping like flies, our players. Everything changed with him because he doesn't look like the same player, and it's because he just needs a rest.
Just on that, another thing I've noticed, right? Remember against Manchester United, we played with Kulu and Maddison in our midfield, right? And remember how attacking we was. We defeated them. And then against, I think it was West Ham, that Maddison had to be sacrificed because we were too open. We had too many players pushing forward at the same time. So Maddison and Kulu both jumping at the same time, both forward, and the space was in behind. And poor old Basuma or Bentancur, whoever was in the six, was left by themselves naked. And then there was a gap between the midfield and the defence. And then because the fullbacks pushed up, sometimes only one of them, we've always turning of our backs and we're always running back to goal. And I remember the same thing happened to Manchester United. Ten Hag had the same issue where he had like a 3-1-6. We've got a 2-1-7, even more extreme, even more aggressive, more attacking. Do you know what I mean? Because both managers, they want to win the ball high up, defend high up. But the weakness of that is when we try to press a team and they beat our press, then we don't have a plan B. We don't have any safety net.
No, we don't.
And that's the reason for me. It's not fatigue. That's not fatigue. For me, that's structure. That's set up because I think that's the reason why he had to sacrifice Maki Moore to bring Basuma in and have Basuma alongside Bentancur, so Bentancur wasn't so exposed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what he's been doing.
And that's the reason why we look a little bit better for about, 10 to 15 minutes, in my opinion. Do you know what I'm saying? And so for me, when Ange comes out and he's saying, he starts fighting for the players and says, look, it's not the players' fault. Don't go at the players. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. I feel like he's trying to cover his own back, not just to the fans, but to the board itself. Do you know what I'm trying to say? That's just how I see it. I could be wrong, bro. Anyone can rebuttal me. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think he's definitely trying to cover. Look, he's very clever with his words. Like sometimes he's a bit off, but if you listen to how he actually speaks, he's very clever in the way that he's trying to kind of cover his tracks essentially, and trying to push away from what the actual problem really is, like trying to make it seem that it's not actually his fault when really a lot of it is his fault. I think we've got another two big massive issues, right? So first of all, it is his tactics and the way he's training, right? But I think one of the biggest problems we've had for years at Spurs is the medical department, right? And I think if you look at how many injuries we've had and the way Ange plays, it's not a surprise that we've had so many injuries this season because our medical department is shambolic, and it has been for a very long time.
That's ongoing, right? That's ongoing, Danny, isn't it?
Well, this is how funny it is. It's so funny that Spurs are literally advertising their medical department on LinkedIn. I mean, it doesn't get funnier than that.
But the thing is as well, I look at Brighton. Brighton are quite similar in terms of how they like to press, they do a lot of sprints, but they also have a lot of injuries. I've noticed that a lot of teams that like to sprint, even Bournemouth, they've got mad injuries because they want to sprint, they want to press aggressively, they want to defend higher up. Spurs do defend. Some people say, Spurs don't defend, and the players, they don't defend, they don't work hard. No, the players are working extremely hard. That's what I am. I think the players are working extremely hard.
I do.
But the difference is, because of the system and managers, their coaches, they're very smart. They know, like, all right, the space to get Spurs, you got to hit the channels. All right, cool. If we've got players if we've got like Aston Villa, their strengths in the middle. So they're able to turn us. They're able to play through the middle because they've got 5 players that can turn. Like, Ramsey, he's a left of the 3, innit? He's supposed to be a left winger. And then Bailey's meant to be the right winger. But Ramsey will drop in with Rodgers to make a 2 in front of Marlon, and then the other 2 midfielders are McGinn, and then you've got Tielemans that create a box 4 which outnumbers our 3 midfielders. Do you understand? And now that our fullbacks don't invert as much, or they don't know when to, they're being outnumbered. And that's how they danced around us, because their strength was in the middle. All their players physically are stronger, have more pace, and the IQ slightly better. They're better all-rounders, in my opinion. Do you understand? Like, if you look at McGinn's a lot more, like, you know what I'm saying? He could be a bit more nasty than like a Bergvall. But that's, the mismatch is crazy. So even if we were to go man-to-man, they would do us. Even if we were to go zonal, they'll do us, because they're a lot more fluid in their rotation.
You know, it is even with that. It's like when you talk about the fluid in rotation, I feel like that's what's the biggest problem. The teams that we've come up against that have caused us the most issues. You look at like the Newcastles and like maybe Arsenal and even Liverpool. They're teams that structurally they approach the game in phases. They don't just go 100% for 90 minutes. They'll have 15 minutes where, do you know what? They go, all right, Spurs, go on. You take the ball, do something. And then after 15 minutes, you see a completely different team. They're going high press. They're going to not let you get out of the box. And they approach the game in phases. And they it's very structured, especially Newcastle. I feel like they're so good that they could be two different teams, two different formations in two halves, but they look no different. They can go 5 at the back, 5-4-1 in the first half, and then they'll go to a 3-4-3 in the second half. And there's no difference. It looks just as fluid. It's just as attacking, or it could be just as defensive. The problem with Spurs is that it doesn't have that structured approach. You can't change a formation and there's going to be a similar outcome. The outcome is so much worse.
To Oren's point, he's saying it's on the players, isn't it? And the players that we've got, they don't have the intelligence, they don't have the bravery, and it's on the players, it's not on Ange. And we've just spoken about Arsenal, Aston Villa, Liverpool. They've got better players than us. So in Oren's defense, he's saying now that if we had players of similar level, this system would be cooking. So then, therefore, it's not on Ange. Is that
no?
What you're saying, Oren?
No,
is that basically it?
Not
Well,
necessarily.
it's players' IQ. Like, I am a big believer of players' IQ and the decision making. And
does that include the fullbacks as well? Because the fullbacks,
even fullbacks. When I watch Spurs play,
the midfielders have to go wide. So then they have to have a level.
If you watch, when I watch, like, if you go back to the Liverpool game, I'm not saying Spurs in the first 60 minutes Spurs were doing great. They were getting peppered. But how did that first goal happen? Was it like a ball played over the top? Was it because the fullbacks were high up? No, it's because Yves Bissouma decided to play a ball behind Sarr, which then created the opportunity. And if you look at the goals, and even against Aston Villa, 50 seconds in, was that goal conceded because the forwards bumped forward? Or maybe, but it was because Kingsley made a mistake. So, yes, this is like, I get the rotation and what Newcastle and Villa are able to do, but at least they have the players to kind of do that, to make changes. Whereas because of the lack of players, and the thing is now, when these players come back, and hopefully they can stay fit, the likes of Archie Gray, the likes of Bergvall, the likes of all these players who have played in the last 3 months, they will have the Ange system drilled in. So in a way, if Ange needs to rotate, it will be in the flow, because every single player will know exactly what they're going to do. And I just think, now bearing in mind, when I say about football and IQ, I have to take in consideration about the mental fatigue. That's a big factor. Everyone knows that when
I hear that.
You know what I mean?
And also, like, Bergvall's quite young, so I wouldn't expect him to have a football IQ yet, if that makes sense. Because
I think Bergvall does. I think he does have. Archie Gray and Bergvall do have.
I mean, in terms of, like,
they don't have experience.
Football IQ is not just like on the ball; it's off the ball as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what I saw was Bergvall at times jumping when he shouldn't jump, if that makes sense, because there's a player on your left side, meaning McGinn, that you need to keep an eye on. Let Kulusevski deal with that player, maybe drop off a little bit, and then defend a little bit deeper. If you defend and you jump all the time and you don't quite get there, like,
that's what happens.
Can see what's behind you. You can't see what's behind you. And
but that's what
ball forward. So that's what I mean by football IQ, not just with the ball, but off the ball.
Yes,
so that's what he's got to learn.
But if you watch,
I'm saying, like, you might have a point when somebody.
No, but to add to that as well, it's like, it's not just Bergvall. It's like, if you like watch Aston Villa and all, communication. So if Bergvall's going to jump, it should be up to Bentancur or Kulusevski to go, no, you stay here. I'm going to get this player. Because when you've seen Spurs won and when they're flowing, you see a difference. You see the players pointing. No, you go there, you go there. And even again, Paul Merson said it. He said, when Spurs are winning, everybody wants the ball.
But the thing is, the pushback on that is when Maddison comes back, who else is the other midfielder that comes in? Because Maddison's not defensively like his IQ wouldn't say, like he's not known to
No,
be
he's not a defender, but
so
I
no,
do
that's what
notice
I'm trying to say. So then like we still have the same issue through the middle.
And
Well-
the thing is, I don't know if you guys noticed, we've tried, especially I think in that City game where we won, maybe the 4-0, when you put Sarr in the midfield to cover the ground and potentially do some of that defensive work and cover the inverted role that Porro makes up. But then we've noticed with Sarr across the season as he's been playing more and more, you make him run so much, he gets tired on the ball. He looks horrible. He looks dreadful on the ball at that point because every time he's getting the ball, he's already done a 100-yard run.
I'm not too sure. I mean, Oren, I don't know. Do you think Ange knows his best midfield? Do you know?
No.
Do you think?
No way.
I think,
No
I
chance.
think,
And that's, I think,
think-
the point.
okay.
Part of the
You
issue.
know, it's an interesting point.
I think Ange does. He just doesn't have the player that he wants. I think if he had, again, back to iconic Gallagher style of player, I think
So do
he
you
would
think,
know.
do
But
you
right
think
now,
the
he
club, so
doesn't know,
the
he
club
doesn't
hasn't
know.
brought that in though, because he asked for it in the summer, not this
Do you
summer.
know-
the summer
do you know
before.
Do you know what's interesting, Ash?
Go on,
Yeah,
go on.
you know, George was talking about the Man City game, right?
Mm.
If you look at the games that we have won and won convincingly this season, right?
Yeah.
What type of football were we playing in those games?
Transitional
And counter-attacking, right?
counter-attack. Yeah, transitional
Do
counter-attack.
you know who scored the most counter-attacking goals in the Premier League this season?
Well,
Pretty
probably
sure it's us.
Spurs.
Us and Liverpool, joint top, 10 goals, right?
Mad.
What I'm trying to get at is that what's funny is that Ange has got this kind of philosophy where it's supposed to be gung-ho front foot, high pressing football, right? But where our best footballs actually come from is when we are doing the counter-attacking football.
Right.
That's where we've scored the most goals, right?
the thing is,
But and this is where it gets frustrating for everyone because it's like I'll give you an example, that Villa game.
Brennan
right?
Johnson is suited to counter-attacking football. By the
He
way.
is suited to counter-attacking football. And that's probably how when he scored
So
his
it's
goals.
like Ange. That was definitely. Well, I don't want to say definitely, but most people are saying that was an Ange signing. Like he
Yeah,
wanted,
no, that does 100% an Ange
he
signing.
wanted, like, he
that's
wanted it.
tactics, Ange.
Yeah, I know that was an
This
Ange
from the
signing.
start.
But do you know what I was gonna say in that Aston Villa game, right? So in that Liverpool game, it looked like he wanted to go pragmatic, right? He wanted to just sit back and try and counter, but there was just no way we were going to do that. But in the Villa game, it's like the team didn't know what they wanted to do, whether they were going to be pragmatic, whether they're going to be attacking, and that was the massive problem because it was like there was no idea. It was like he was trying to do a bit of both, but he didn't technically set them
It's
up
what
the right
happened
way.
with Liverpool. Liverpool, we got peppered. So then he was like, I tried the pragmatic way. It didn't work. See, I told you. That's how I looked at it. I'm going to go back to what I know, which is more attacking. That's why you saw the jump in Porro at the first few seconds or the first minute, left that spacing behind. And if you actually check it, Bentancur was trying to cover him because he wasn't even in the sixth position. Then you've got Kulusevski and Bergvall all shifted over to the right as Digne's got the ball. As he's beaten Mikey Moore and he's beaten Son, he's able to find, I can't remember who was in the middle. I think it was Morgan Rogers. Morgan Rogers is in acres of space and he's like that. He's able to turn on it and then drive through the middle because the midfielders are being sucked into one area. And I think that's because the way we defend, we try to suffocate teams in one specific zone. Do you know what I'm saying? So rather than, it's not always man-to-man. Sometimes Spurs do man-to-man press, but sometimes we press zonally. And I think we pressed a Gergen press zonally to try to keep them pinned in because we thought Digne would be their weakest player in it as a fullback. And we thought, all right, let's get 3 or 4 bodies around him. And then when he bypassed that press, it was like, now we're exposed. Morgan Rogers is running that man. He puts the through ball into Ramsey. Ramsey's running off the right into that channel, not picked up. And then he's got acres of space to have that first attack. Now, we do concede already that Kinski should have saved that, no doubt. And that's why I was asking before, what do you not think of Kinski as a signing? Kind of got away from it.
Me and Ash have had arguments about Kingsley.
Right, I think he's good. He comes and claims the ball. I think he's just fallen under the category of that tension and nervousness.
Yeah.
But I do think yes, he made the mistake, but my word, did he make up for it? Because rightfully, Villa was just, the coming out, blocking it, things of that nature. His passing is a little bit suspect, but there's no one moving for him. So it's a little bit difficult to make a pass for someone who's just standing there and then there's got like 2 players around him. So I do think that Kingsley is going to be is a good goalkeeper, and I do think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Fikari comes back.
I think it's 100% Vicario comes into the team.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But I think it's definitely too early to judge Kinski. I think he's obviously played a much bigger role than he should be, because he was always going to be a backup goalkeeper. And I generally do think I agree with Oren. I think the occasions got to him, because we've seen in the games he has made mistakes. The Arsenal game, the Liverpool game, the Villa game, it's always been a game where there's been a lot of pressure, and mostly all three of them were away games, right? So
I hear that.
Those are the ones that really
do you know what?
Ash, he's still on my side.
He's young. He's young, but he's a bit suspect at the moment, because my gripe with him is that far too many times he one of his bad points or his bad traits is that he parries the ball into the dangerous areas.
Yes,
right?
he does.
He always does that, and he's done that quite a few times. And
he was like that at Sparta Prague though as well.
Yeah,
this
is the problem though. So like, I really hope that they can coach that out of his game, or he can, because that's going to be a massive problem if he wants to be a Premier League keeper, right? My personal opinion is, I don't know why they signed Kingsley. I think Austin is a far better keeper, to be honest. I don't know why they spent money on Kingsley. I know that they were going to sign him in the summer, but they brought it forward because of the injury issues. But I still don't get it that Austin should be on number 2. I think every time I've seen Austin play, he looks far more rounded. He looks far more overall more competent. I mean, the only difference is that maybe Kinski's got better footwork. Basically, that's about it.
But Austin was shaky in the second half against Hoffenheim, and I think everyone's looking at the Newcastle game going, okay, he was good, but when you go and look at the Hoffenheim game, he was shaky. He had nothing to really do against Elfsberg, so we can't really judge him. But as soon as the pressure was put on Austin, we then conceded. So I think I get what people are saying.
Do you know what it is, bro? It's a gamble, though. It's a gamble. It's a gamble that we're doing with the youth, because you just don't know if they are ready for that level. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like certain players we buy from lower clubs, and sometimes they get to the bigger club and then they just don't really bang as much. Do you know what I'm saying? They're not that level. Do you know what I'm saying? That their level was that club.
I think it's always a mentality thing for me. When I look at it, it's just
as well,
these players. They weren't built to play at the top level. They just mentally weren't there. And when let's have it right. You look at a Basuma who's come from a smaller club. Every big game never turns up. It's just like he's here for a paycheck. You look at, I think when you look at some of the smaller players that we bought, the Brennan Johnsons. His mentality was questioned from the first few games. He looked like he was just happy to be a Spurs player. Like he just had a big smile on his face. And it was
Can I ask you a question on that though?
Yeah.
Because like we were saying earlier, and this is going back to, and this will probably make Oren happy, but if we're wanting to sign established Premier League players, Basuma, Brennan Johnson are established Premier League players. And they're the players
Brennan Johnson wasn't established. He had one season.
I know he had 1 year, but he was an average player. But we could see that. But when we're asking for them to sign Premier League players, it's not like Brennan Johnson didn't have Premier League experience.
Wasn't Brennan Johnson?
When I say Premier League players, I mean experienced. I said playing European football, and if not, the best player in the smaller team. We went and got Brennan Johnson, who wasn't even the best winger at Nottingham Forest.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. You pay 5 to 10 million pound more, and you go and get Eze. Like, it's night and day between the two players in terms of ability.
Yes, you're right about that. But here's a question: why did no one else come in for Eze? If he's so spectacular,
I'll tell you why. Ange decided against it in the summer.
No. I'm not talking about Spurs. I'm talking about any club. Why did no club? Why is he still playing at Crystal Palace?
I don't feel like there was the need for his role profile in many of the big clubs. To pay 60 million for him, I don't think any club needed him.
And how's he done? How's he done at Crystal Palace? Because I don't really watch Crystal Palace.
I think he's doing pretty well. He did start the season off really slow, but apart from that, if you look at all of Crystal Palace's performances,
the ones that they've won, it's because of him. Yeah,
to be fair, if you look at most of the if you look at most of the players that played for England at the Euros, most of them took a long time to actually come back and start playing well. That includes the Rices of this world. And if you notice, there's a certain point when Watkins started to hit form, because they were relying on Duran from beginning of the season. So I think what you've found is that most of these English players have just taken a bit longer than usual.
I personally think with Brennan Johnson, he was just the wrong profile of winger
Yes.
for Spurs. It wasn't even the fact that he had like one season. I think you have to look at the player, look at your system. And if you want a touchline winger, similar to what City do, they've got Doku out wide. They've got Safinho out wide. Do you know what I'm saying? They're wingers that hug the touchline and they create from out wide. They don't necessarily need to come inside and then score. But with Brennan Johnson on that right-hand side especially, the only time he inverts is when he's in space. He doesn't take a player on and then take a shot like a Madueke. Not that I'm saying Madueke is the level, or like a Semenyo who will take his man on and shoot. Do you know what I mean? Brennan Johnson doesn't demonstrate. When there's space in behind, Brennan can run onto that. And then
the funniest thing is,
he's a tapping merchant.
Brennan Johnson was actually a striker. He actually
in the championship.
You know what?
That's the point.
When we signed him, I thought he
was a backup. Yeah.
Do you know he used to play at Lincoln with Morgan Rogers? How about that?
Yeah, and he was. I'm pretty sure his highest goal season at Nottingham Forest, he played like strike quite a bit.
Brendan Johnson,
he was one of the players of the. I think he was one of the players of the year in the championship.
Brendan Johnson's on the winger.
But,
he's not a winger.
No, he's not. He's more like an inside forward.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's why I said, are you guys happy with Tell? Because I don't think Tell is a touchline winger.
No,
I think he's an inside forward as well.
Yeah.
That's why I thought that Tell and Son were getting in similar positions.
I guarantee you, Tell has been signed to play as a striker. That's
number 9.
I think he's been signed for that number 9, right? Because that's what he wants.
But Solanke there, so does that really make sense? And I just think
maybe
Ange wants his wide players to score and come inside. You know what I'm saying? But I just think for
it's backup though. It's not so much backup. It's having players that can give Solanke rest because Richarlison, Richarlison, he's a no hooper. Like I've never seen a player.
Is he the replacement for Richarlison? Then is that what we're saying?
I think Richarlison would have been sold last season if he hadn't pulled the mental health card. He would have been sold, but they couldn't sell him because he was like, "Oh, can you do that to him?" No, I think Saudi Arabia wanted if a big enough bid came in from the Saudi, Spurs would have probably pushed him at the door.
You're kind of on the right track with what happened with Richarlison in the summer. There was a club that wanted him, but the problem is that he didn't want to go.
Yeah.
But the Tottenham, Daniel Levy wanted more money than what the other club were offering. He wanted closer to what we paid for him, and they wanted to offer close to 30 million, and he wants to get close to 50 million.
Yeah.
Then they had a meeting. I think it was like a couple of weeks before pre-season, and they decided that they weren't going to sell him because they weren't going to get the money for him, and he was happy because he didn't want to leave. But if the offer came in, I reckon they would have forced him out. I reckon they would have been like, "See you later, mate." But again, it's just I would have taken 30 million for him. Just you're not even going to get 30 million this summer if someone offers 30 million for him. Like, you won't, because he's too injury. Well, I mean, we say he's got injury problems. He had injury problems before, but whenever a player comes to Spurs, it's like their injury problems go through the roof. And it's like, I'll give you an example, right? There's two examples. Yeah, Tanganga is the most craziest one. I mean, his whole career at Spurs, he comes on his debut at Liverpool. He looks like the new Ledley King regen. And then he has this terrible injury record with knees. And it was kind of like, you felt like he was like literally Ledley King all over again, right? But the worst thing is he leaves and then he goes to Millwall and he has like 48 games consecutively. And he's like now the player of the season or one of the player of the season in the league. It's just insane. And then also you've got Dominic Solanke for years, never had an injury, comes to Spurs and now he's out for like 3 months. So there's obviously some sort of fundamental problem going on at Spurs as well, which is affecting.
What about, like, here's a question for the panel. There's a certain defender that hasn't been mentioned, a certain Christian Romero. What do you think is going to happen to him?
Gone in the summer.
Yeah, he's gone, man. He's basically gone because he like in a bit. George. It's like what they said. Remember in the training ground. There was it Sky Sports? I swear there was like videos of him training.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, quiet, nothing. And then before you know it, he's a slow healer. Like,
do you know
what I'm saying? And then we know every season he's had some type of injury. And I'm like, is Christian Romero, is he injury prone? And then I look at Mickey van der Ven and I'm like, is Mickey van der Ven injury prone as well? Do we have two centre backs that are injury prone?
There was a question today on X that one of the other YouTubers put out, and they said if you could sell one in the summer, who would it be between Van der Ven and Romero?
Easy decision for me. Like,
I said, I think the answer is it depends on who our manager is.
Yeah.
Because because why I'm saying that is because you go to this season and last season, the two players that have missed out are Van de Ven and Romero, and Ange hasn't been able to cope. From what a lot of people have been saying, it's because of injuries, but it's always been when those two are significantly gone that the whole season goes to pot. Now, if we go to next season and we've got the same two, they're going to get injured again. We all know it. Van de Ven's injury record was before Ange, so was Romero's. So you have to go out and probably replace both of them this summer with actually high quality players that are going to play more games for Ange.
That's what.
And as what Danny said, someone who's going to play, even if they're not going to play all the games, at least give us 30.
Do you know what the problem is though? Do you know what the problem is? Before you come in, Danny, Romero, people like berating him, saying he's rubbish defender, he can't defend, whatever. But Spurs have suffered to play out from the back since he's gone. Spurs cannot build up properly, and all fans are like,
I hope you bitches can see it.
Kick it long. You don't always have to go short. And that's where we're missing Romero. Romero on the ball, he could pass that kind of line-breaking pass from deep. But then also, when we were playing out from the goal kick, Vicario would play it short into like Van de Ven. Van de Ven will play it back to Vicario. Then he would play it out to Romero. Then Romero, I remember a goal against Manchester United, and Nathan posted it from, I forgot the name of their thing, their pod. But basically, it's the goal where Romero gets the ball, and then I think it's Højlund curves his run, and so he blocks off the option for Romero to pass it into Basuma, because Basuma's the 6 at the time.
It's Bentancur.
Is it Bentancur? All right. So what he does is Porro swaps over with Kulu. Those two swap over. So Porro inverts, and then Kulu goes out wide. And then what Kulu does well, he fakes the goal one way, and then he goes the other. And then Porro is able to play that ball from out the back into Kulu, right into feet. At current present, we're relying on someone like either Archie Gray, Dragostin's obviously out now, or Danso to do that. And that's the reason why Spurs can't play fluidly at the moment, and we're suffering because of it. Do you know what I mean? So like, as much as people say, get rid of Romero, sell him, even Maddison came out today. I just read a quote saying how people say, he's not good, but it's just the way we play football. A lot of people don't appreciate his qualities. He's a World Cup winner. He's world class, and that was what Maddison said. And Maddison, for me, whether you like him defensively or whether you think he plays for the shirt, I think Maddison's got some of those ball kind of qualities that he could recognize a baller. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Hey, Romero is a good player. I like Romero. I think he gets a lot of slack. Like, he gets maybe too much slack, right? But it's so hard to see whether it's injury issues, because if he does go and play for Argentina, that is, I'm sorry, there's something up with that. If he does,
another list also.
If he genuinely plays for Argentina, there's something going on in the club, and I just think that he'll probably end up being one of the ones who's sold in the summer. And I think that's why they brought in Danso, because Danso has been brought in as a kind of replacement for Romero. And I think with the money they get for Romero, they'll go and get another centre back. And then we really need two, to be honest. But we still haven't got a second left back. I think Reguilon goes in the summer.
All right, check this now. Supposing not worst case scenario, but supposing we were to get an Italian manager, that's overly defensively.
Hopefully not.
Like, that used to play for Juventus. That used to manage Juventus. Yeah. Imagine we get him. Would Mickey van der Ven suit that system if we play low to mid block? Would he be exposed? Because I remember, like, some people say, like, you take away Mickey van der Ven's sprints,
which will happen now.
Yeah, which will happen now because his hamstrings keep going
against.
What value do we put on Mickey van der Ven? Because
that's the thing. It's like
in the air, he doesn't win against balls.
The difference is, like, if you watch Ellsberg when he played 45 minutes. And Donzo does it. Donzo does it all the time. There's two types of defenders. There's defenders who will... Ruddy Dragusin, perfect example of the two between. There's defenders who will see an attacker and step back and go backwards. If you watch Mickey van der Ven and Donzo, they attack the ball and they make clean tackles. With Romero, yes, he's a good player. But not just his injuries. When he plays, he's always that one tackle away from injuring himself or getting sent off or getting a yellow card. And I think his mind's already made up. He wants to play in the Champions League. He wants to do this. He wants to do that, which is fair play. And I do think that that's why Spurs will more than likely look to offload him. And Mickey van de Ven, to answer that question, if he plays a low block, Mickey van de Ven is aggressive going for. He's aggressive. He attacks the ball. He doesn't. Yes, he relies on his pace, but Kyle Walker did the same thing. If you can remember, Kyle Walker would use his pace. Anybody with speed would use their pace to get out of it. But in a low block, Mickey van de Ven would still be good because he'll time his tackles and make good tackles. Whereas Romero would do rash tackles. I mean, against Chelsea, we all saw that tackle. And when I saw it, I was like, there was no need for it. It's like he saw his mate and went, I'm going to fuck you up just because I want to. And you're thinking, there's VAR. Spurs, yes, they got a penalty because of it, but it's not the first time Romero's done it. Even the injury, it was against Aston Villa. Spurs were 4-1 up, and he decided, there's an Aston Villa player. I'm going to show him how to play football, or I'm going to bash him. And then he fucked his foot up.
Do you think that, like how we look exposed when I said we play with a 2-1-7, meaning that we've got two centre backs. Sometimes it's not a 2-1-7. Sometimes it looks a little bit more like a 3 where not all the fullbacks bomb up. One of them kind of sits a little bit. But do you think the way we set up in a 2-1-7, for example, that when Romero's in the team and he kind of steps in, the way he defends high up, he leaves us less exposed because he's so front-footed and he's able to read that play quite quickly and he's aggressive.
Yeah, he does. He does. Though I do think that one of the issues for Spurs, there's many issues, but one of the issues as well is that
many issues,
when players when they're attacking, the ball goes to Song, and so many times Destiny Udogie, when he pulled his hamstring, I was watching that match and thinking Destiny's going to do something here. Song gets the ball, and Destiny Udogie go, right, I'm going to make that inside run. Song has two choices: either use him and then make a run for himself, or does what he does all the time, cuts in and ignores him. It does against Spence. So I'm thinking, when the likes of Song and even Kuleveski, when they get the ball, they hug it too much. And that's what I was saying about passive movement. And when they lose it, because Pero and Destiny or Spence, whoever has pushed up, they have to track all the way back. Now, this issue would still be a big issue, even if they were playing wing backs and they were going outside.
Of course.
So basically, it's ball retention, and I think that that Spurs, against Villa, against Liverpool, it was like Spurs can't make a pass here. They just can't make, and it's not raking passes. It's little simple passes.
Yeah. I saw Bergvall do it. I saw Moore do it. I saw, who else does he do it? Porro do it. I saw quite a few players just pass it off the pitch. Even Spence. I saw Spence meant to pass the tail, and he's passed it out wide in the opening minutes of the game. Do you know what I'm saying?
Because there's a lack of cohesion, there's a lack of chemistry.
Yeah. So
that could be because of no training as well, because they're not training.
People don't know training. That could be down to fatigue. But then I think also relationism. I always speak about that, meaning the relationships they have on the pitch. Tel and Spence haven't had that many games together to understand each other's games. To say I know you want it here, you want it to your toes in this space. Do you understand? Or you like it slightly in front. But
it's also It's also because he keeps changing, because of the injuries. He keeps changing. Even in the Liverpool game, how many times during the game did we see the two fullbacks switch all the time? They must have done it about 3 or 4 times.
Left back to right, back to right.
Yeah. But then he went back to left back at one point.
Then he went back to left back.
It's like what the hell? It's like, and this is. And that's also another problem. And I know a few people said it in chat, and I said it last season. I actually would love to see Van de Ven as a striker. I think his finishing ability is brilliant, and he's rapid as well. He's big, he's rapid. I'm telling you, Van de Ven could be our new Gareth Bale.
Left wing, inverted.
New Gareth Bale,
But actually, with hamstring injuries and this was an industry, the gym I go to, I know the personal trainers. and I spoke to he's kind of the manager of the gym, and he supports Liverpool, and he used to play semi-professional football. So I asked him, I said, like, is the injuries based just on Ange's system, or is it what the players are doing when it regards to stretching? And he said, well, it's a bit of both. Because what Ange has to do is realize that it's not all about go, 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 go. He has to, like, every 15 minutes. And I do think maybe in a way Spurs have tried to do that because, like you said, DK, that Spurs like counter-attacking to the most level. So I've always thought that when Spurs score first, they then drop deep to then counter. But when Spurs concede, they have to keep pushing, which then they get counter. That's my philosophy. But he said what they have to do is play that way. But he said also the stretching. Like, I watched those Spurs training. I don't know if you guys ever watch it, the YouTube on Spurs channel where you show the players warming up or training, doing the training in the gym. And I look at the stretching, I'm thinking, that's not stretching. I don't know what they're just half-assing it.
But I don't know. It depends. Do you believe in static stretching before a game? Like static?
No, it's not static stretching.
Dynamic stretching, or do you know what I'm saying?
Well, when I go to the gym, I make sure I stretch, and I don't do so basically, I will do kick, air kicks and stuff because when you're playing football, you can't just stretch the muscle and then go, that's it. You've got to like do the, I don't know what you call it, but I look at those players and think, right, for example, rugby league, those players are using their feet all the time. And what they would have, I think NFL has it as well, they'll have bikes at the edge of the pitch when there's a long break so the players can keep their legs going.
Yeah.
So when I looked at Van de Ven, I thought, right, when has he pulled his hamstring? It's often been when there's been a break in the game, a long break, and he's like kind of cooled down. So
so isn't that down to the manager then?
Well, no, it's down to the player and the coaches to figure out, right, because Harry Kane, remember Harry Kane, he always got injured, hamstring or ankle, and then he went 2 seasons without getting injured. He brought in a nutritionist. He actually said, even Lionel Messi had his own special training program.
Wenger did that. He was the one that revolutionized football in terms of nutrition and stuff. So I remember like Harry Redknapp came in, and Harry Redknapp, I think it was not Santini, it was Ramos, had him on a strict diet, and then Harry was like, give him ketchup, man, let these boys live a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, the football started playing better, but at the same time, I remember actually Harry Redknapp actually recently came out and he said, "Oh, you know what? The coaches during the game, they don't go up to Ange. Ange is by himself. He looks like a lonely figure.
Our coaches are useless."
Don't you think? He said he liked his coaches to come up and have a word with him and challenge him. So, like, are the coaches yes men? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Overruling all the coaches what they've got to say, because I don't see them coming up during the game and saying, "Look, mate, do this, do that."
I listened to Alistair Goal. Alistair Goal is always at Spurs matches, and he said he sees the coaches go and talk to Ange. It's just what we see because we're watching it on television. So basically, we only see when Ange's standing by himself. It's the same as Pep. Like, they will just show Pep standing by himself. You'll never see coaches talking to Pep unless Pep goes and sits with them and talks with them. And there was a famous scene where Pep is having a conversation with himself. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip. He's like talking to an empty chair next to him.
Yeah.
So like it's the coaches are there, Ange's there, and they're both processing things. And maybe half time, that's when they go in, because the whole narrative, like, Ange doesn't shout. He does shout. He does get irate. You just don't see it, because the only time you see Ange is when Spurs are playing bad. It switches to him. He's standing on the touchline going, right, what can I do? Or when he's shaking his head, because that's what gets the most clicks. That's what gets the most talked about. But he does shout. So I think, like, what I'm really talking about is the fitness coaches, and like, why aren't they? Even Gareth Bale, remember Gareth Bale? I think he was always pulling his hamstring, and then he would wear those black bands. So what are they doing, and what stretches are they doing with the players? Because surely they can go and look. Maybe not now.
So you're saying it's the fitness. You're saying it's down to the fitness coaches, basically.
No, I'm not saying it's. I'm thinking it's the fitness coach again. I'm always a firm believer of the player should go, right, sit down with the fitness coach and go, let's talk about what I can, like Van de Ven. I'm pulling my hamstrings all the time.
Surely Ange has got to look at that, and like, he's seen all these hamstring on different injuries come up, impact injuries, knee, calf, hamstring, whatever you call it. Surely he's got to be pulling them to the side, like the fitness managers or the fitness coaches. Sorry, he's got to be pulling them up and saying, "Look, this isn't good enough." My
I
players.
think he has said it. I think Ange did say that the medical team's getting looked at. Why are these players coming back and re-injuring themselves? What is the problem? Are they getting rushed back too much? And Mickey van de Ven, did he pull his hamstring again, or is he just not being
There's
risked?
no update. That's the whole ambiguity.
Right.
This is why we're having this discussion, because the club haven't come out and communicated with the fans.
Yeah.
And every time Ange has been questioning it, he's kind of dancing around it, saying that, it's a mixture, of tiredness, fatigue, and we can't put a date on it.
Didn't Ange say Mickey van de Ven doesn't feel ready at this moment to play a full?
So that's what he said at the Brentford game. They said because the cups were coming up, they're using it as a precautionary, and they're going to rest him in that particular game. So that's what it was. And then after that, journalists have been asking, and he's kind of been dancing around that kind of issue, because obviously the window had just closed after that, and we were linked with, as Marlon's already said, X, Y, and Z. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's where the club now are getting it's all eyes on the club, and then all eyes are on Ange as well, because it's like we're not getting a clear answer. We're getting politician answers. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's where the confusion is.
Yeah, no one knows. So
no one knows, and that's the problem. Like over the history, there's a trust issue. I feel like with the club, there's always this trust issue, because we feel like they're not giving us the whole truth, like to say we can't handle the truth. When the Beyonce deals were announced, they brought it up, and then they quickly took it away because they realized, maybe
of course they would.
The right timing to bring this up. Whoops-a-daisy. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course.
So,
well, I get what you're saying, Ash, but
go on. Sorry.
Are you surprised? Because no matter what Daniel Levy announced, he's going to get criticized some shape, way, or form. No matter what he does. Well, even if Daniel Levy was to leave tomorrow, and Tottenham would be bought, right? and it would take a while. It would take a while for Spurs to succeed. The narrative would be, it's still Daniel Levy's fault because he didn't leave sooner.
So
he's always going to get criticized.
So all right, put that aside now. Coming back to you're saying keep Ange 3-year project, not a 2-year project, not an 18-month project. We keep sacking and binning off these managers. Would you say then, like, we're linked to this player called Johnny Cardoso, right? He is a 6. He's a midfielder.
Yeah.
He's a destroyer.
Yeah.
If we were to get him in, would you expect an upturn in results? Because what was your expectation of the start of the season? Where did you?
My expectation since Poch took over for Spurs always finish in the top 4 and win.
So you thought we'd finish in the top 4 this season, then?
Yeah, win something.
And win something.
Since Poch, every season, I think Poch should have won the Premiership twice.
No, but I'm talking about not Poch.
Yeah. I'm just saying, based on my experience, I think this season Spurs should have been in the top 4. And
is that your hope, or is that what you truly?
No, that's
what you actually thought. You actually thought they would, and that's
my expectation. That's not hope.
That's got nothing to do. Hold on. That's got nothing, because I heard someone say earlier they're always going to back Spurs no matter what. But is that your heart saying that, or is that your head saying that? Because
both. Because without the players getting injured, I looked at the team and I thought Spurs actually have cover for pretty much every position, and so therefore, if the injuries hadn't have happened, and you mentioned earlier, Marlon, about the Euros, and I think Romero came back from whatever game they play in the
Copa America,
and I think they won that. Didn't they won the Copa America?
Yeah.
So he came back and was fatigued. So it was a case of like, right, if you can get past this spell, get fitnesses back. I still think that Spurs have a good squad now because of the experience. And I think.
So where do you expect us to finish the end of the season? Now we're currently 14th. Do you expect us now that we're getting our players back? Madison apparently is coming back. Brennan Johnson looks like he's on his way back. Who else? Vicario. They're saying Vicario
is on his way back.
Could feature against Manchester United.
And that's the Udogie as well.
They're saying Udogie as well. So that 4 players potentially going back. And then they said Odobert.
Odebert's on his way back?
Yeah, Odebert's not too far behind. And Solanke's not too far behind.
Okay.
So what we're looking at, what were we in? With the 12th of March, 12th of February, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you think by March, because there's what, 2 more league games left? Is there 2 more league games left or 3 more league games left before we get to March?
3.
There's 3 more.
Three.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've got,
Is it free?
yeah, we've got 3.
Okay.
We've got United, Ipswich, and City.
All
Yeah.
right. So do you expect us to beat United, like if we get those 4 players back, Ipswich, and then possibly do you reckon we get a result and start getting like 9 points in those next 3 games?
Yeah, I think like who's the first game? Man United. I think that's a big one, and I think Spurs are capable of beating.
We're at home.
United.
We're at home as well.
Yes, I think Spurs.
Yeah, but we haven't won at home in 3 months.
Yes, I understand that, but the big, massive, huge fucking difference is the players have a week off, and they've had time to recover. They've had time to like fully heal, and that's the thing now, because I think as the Man City game is midweek, but at least the players will have a week to rest and recover. Plus, the players are coming back, so that will create that buzz. And I do think
you lost today as well, by the way, people. 3-2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like City are not back.
Real Madrid.
Far from it.
It's Real Madrid, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, but City are not back. They're far from it. Like, so I think like, where do I expect Spurs to finish? Probably 7th, maybe 6th.
So you think we'll make Europe?
Yeah, and I do. Wow. I think that Spurs.
No way.
I think Spurs will also look to push for the Europa League. That's all they have now. And if Spurs win the Europa League, does that automatically qualify for the Champions League?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So you think? Hold on, just a question on that. So you think that when we get back to the Europa League, we'll be able to play? You just said we've had a week off. You think we'll be able to cope with Thursday, Sunday, even though we haven't coped all season, even when we had our fit?
No, it's because
because
with players coming back, I think that will be the rotation, because when it comes to football, like the one thing that has actually gone against Ange in a way is the fact that he was facing the press every day, getting asked the same questions. So I think like with those players coming back and the rotation, and even before the whole thing happened, and yes, I think the mistake he made was with Spence. That was a mistake, but he was rotating. He wasn't playing. He was playing Thibaut Werner instead of Song. He was playing Radu instead of Romero. He got injured. He was even playing Archie Gray over Perez. So he was kind of looking for the rotation. And I think that with these new additions as well, he will have even more players to rotate.
Can I ask a question?
Providing that, yes, Romero and Van de Ven can come back and stay fit for more than...
Oh, is it depending on Romero and Van de Ven? Is that your...
No, it's not just... It's... No,
is it regardless? Is it regardless? Is it regardless?
Yes, it's regardless. If players can come back and keep their fitness, then yes. Yeah, I do think 6th or 7th, and I think Spurs might go, right, let's push for the Europa League. Let's try and get there.
All right, so let me put this scenario in, yeah? Because you're 6th or 7th, but if we do not get 6th or 7th and we manage to finish, I don't know, 11th?
Yeah.
What would you put that down to then? Would you say then now, actually, the manager's culpable? Like, what would it take for you to say, like, you know what? Because the manager's come out and he said it's not the players. It's not the players. And if it's not the players and you're protected them, then
what's your Lucas Moura moment? Because you didn't like Lucas Moura. I know you didn't. What is your Lucas Moura moment with Ange?
There is, if my Lucas Moura with Ange is if next season Ange has a full set of squad and Spurs are still in this position, knocked out of all the cups, then it's like, yeah, you're not sorry. That's it. That's the only reason. Don't get me wrong, guys. Like, again, I've said it before. If Ange had the full set of players and Spurs are playing bad, there's nothing I can say to defend him. There's nothing. It's like, nope, there's nothing. But I look at the whole realistic thing. It's like, right. And I think it's the board. And I think a lot of majority of fans are starting to see that now. Let him have his players. Judge him on his players coming back properly. And let's see what happens.
Look, and I'll go again. I can't judge him on that because I need him to be able to, because he's going to get injuries next season.
Yeah,
if he gets injuries next season, at the end of the day, you're not going to say get him out because you're going to go, he's got injuries again.
But when you say, Marlon, that
true,
with the likes of Kevin, with the likes of Donzo being signed, with the likes of
but we had Dragoshin this year, and
we don't need Dragoshin, and then if Romero gets sold, and they bring in another central defender, then surely they will be able to deal with that injury. Because again,
But he hasn't managed the injuries well this season. So what makes you think you're managing
all last season?
All last season.
Well,
What makes
that's
you think
because
it's
it's
the third season?
because it was the injuries that has happened to key players that he's molded off that system. Like, if I had to pick between which one I would want to be injured, I would say Romero, because I prefer Van de Ven, because Van de Ven in a way would suit that system. Like, even against Hoffenheim, look how sure Archie Gray was with him, because they knew, and Van de Ven wasn't sprinting all over the place.
Yeah,
and I do think
they didn't attack.
Well, they didn't attack, but still, it's like they still played that high line. They still, what I'm saying is, they gave more confidence to play that pressure and high line.
I get what you mean. But it's the wrong opposition to compare it to. And he still got injured.
Guys, but I'm just asking, isn't it the manager's job to kind of see what he has and get the best of what he has available? Because every manager does get that kind of injury crisis, and then they have to kind of find a way to kind of get results. Is that not a part? Is that not management? Is that not managing?
Of course it is. Of course it is. But the problem is, like, the thing is, what we've seen from Ange since that Chelsea capitulation last season, right? We haven't seen, if you actually go back to the results, right? The last time Spurs in the Premier League won back-to-back games was in, I think it was October 2023.
How many games was that, by the way? What was his biggest run? Obviously, after the 8 or 10 games we win. What's his most consistent?
2. That's it. It's the last time we won back-to-back games. We haven't won back-to-back games since October 2023.
Are you serious?
Yeah. 2.
But, oh my days!
This is why there's a misconception. This is why a lot of fans get annoyed with Ange.
What are we seeing then? I don't understand.
Didn't Spurs have the same issue with Conte though as well? They were winning one game, losing one game, winning one game, losing one game towards the end.
Not as bad as this.
No, I'm not saying as bad as this, but I'm saying wasn't. And even under Poch, they went through this towards the end, whereas winning one game, losing one game.
Fourth
but I think Oren.
He got sacked, but we all know why Conte got sacked. Let's clear that up there. Like,
Oren, but what we're saying is that the fact is that yes, there's going to be win loss. That there was times, but they still had games where they'd go 4 games with a win. I'm not
denying
that.
I'm just saying it's
like where Ange hasn't done that.
No.
Hey, time for change. You don't need your camera on.
10 games in a row, but like again,
time for change. You don't need your camera on. I don't need your camera on. Time for change.
Fuck, what time is it? Shit, I've outstayed my time. No wonder I'm falling asleep.
Do you know? That's what I find is crazy. Is that we have not. This is why fans are getting frustrated with Ange, because this has been happening since last season, like regardless of the injuries, right? I know the injuries have affected us more this season, but consistently, like that is shambolic, really.
I didn't even know that.
The last time we won 2 games in a row was we beat on Monday the 23rd of October 2023. We beat Fulham 2-0 at home, and then on the Friday we went and beat Crystal Palace away 2-1.
Are you just talking Premiership?
I remember that game.
Yeah.
That was the last time we won back-to-back Premier League games. That's over a year. That's ridiculous.
Wow.
And that's the longest run he's had, isn't it? Too.
Oren,
Oren,
what you say about that, man? I didn't know that. I don't know. That's not me.
Again, it's
I'm trying to bring nuance to the conversation, but
again, though, it's like
crazy.
Look at the circumstances. It's not just. Like,
but you think we can get 9 points out of our next 3?
Yes, well, if the rotation's right and they get rest.
No way.
Not 9 points. I think Spurs are capable. See, that's a difficult thing, because I can sit here and say
it's football end of the day, so it's an opinion.
They can beat United. Spurs can beat United. They can certainly get something against Ipswich. And I would say Man City, but the fucked up thing is, it's like I can see Spurs losing against Ipswich, but beating Man City, because Spurs always beat Man City. Maybe not 9 points, but are Spurs capable of getting 9 points? Yes, they are. Will they get 9 points?
Wait. Just to put it into perspective, how many teams need to lose, and then how many games do we need to win for us to end up 7th? Because we're in the bottom half of the table, by the way. So we're assuming that other teams are going to also drop points, like your Bournemouths, your Newcastles. They're all battling for that 5th spot. Forest, especially, they're battling for that 5th spot. Do you know what I'm saying? Then you've got your Chelsea as well. Chelsea, they're doing everything they can to get back into the Europe's elite team. So that's 4 teams I've just mentioned there. Not to mention Aston Villa. They think they have a chance. We talk to the Villa fans.
We're 10 points behind Villa at the moment.
10 points behind Villa. So we're expecting the team that we just lost to.
And there's 14 games to go. You have to include that. There's only 14 games.
There's 14 games to go. So
you're expecting a lot of teams to lose a lot of games.
You're expecting a lot of teams to drop off. And then for us to win also in that vein where we kind of jump over them. Do you know what I'm saying?
But we've still got hard games away. Liverpool away. We've still got Chelsea away, which 2 grounds where we don't lose, we don't win. So let's rock.
Sorry, I just made a mistake. We've had a consecutive wins this season, the beginning of September. I think someone in the chat said it, and I just checked it. It was when we beat Brentford and then Man United away this season. That was in September.
Yeah, but we haven't won like more than 2.
That's there's never been 3. Yeah,
that's my point.
We haven't had 3.
Like, because me, I love optimistic fans. Like, I like to think of myself as optimist, but sometimes reality hits, and you have to look at what's in front of you. You have to look at the evidence, and sometimes just weigh it up. You have to try to find the middle ground. That's what I believe. Do you know what I mean? You have to find the middle ground sometimes. And so, if I'm looking at previous data, I'm looking at our form, and I'm looking at what we had when we did have good players, and we weren't able to string 3 wins together with a full fit team.
Yeah, exactly that.
I'm starting to like what's going on here? Like,
exactly
like that meme where there's a fire in the background and the dog's like, it's gonna be fine. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah. That's the problem, Ash. That's exactly the problem. Is that we can't even string more than 2 wins back to back at the moment, and it's like where are we gonna get this kind of hope even with players coming back? It's just not gonna happen because there's something not right with something's got to change in the summertime. I'm with Oren where I don't think they're gonna sack the manager until the summer. I actually said on Stell's stream Sean's stream the other day, that I think that there's a possibility that Ange will be here beyond the summer because there's a lot of reasons why I think that, and
why do you think he'll be there beyond the summer?
Because
I just back up.
Well, no, I just think
we won't be on a manager.
No, I just think that he is big. He is like Levy's shield, and he is a bit of a yes man, right? And he is kind of what it looks like is that he's kind of. If you look at the way he speaks, right, he's always putting the blame on himself, right? Everything is always himself.
Yeah.
He never blames it. He's always saying, he's always saying the club are doing their best to do what they can, this. He's always.
Because it comes across as honourable, like he's an honourable person. Because I've realised that about Spurs fans, not all Spurs fans, but the fans that do back him, they like the fact that he doesn't blame like Conte. Conte was the one that blamed people, and he takes it on himself. They kind of like that, and I think it's even you see, like the club. The club aren't trying to do the oil money thing. They're trying to do it the right way. They're not trying to do what Chelsea are doing.
The problem is, do you know what it is?
Hotels and then selling it back to themselves.
It's because they are their main kind of target market for players they want to sign are youngsters, right? Below the age of 20, 22, 23.
That when Poch was around,
with
kind of youth kind of project thing.
The problem with that is when you're buying too much youth for a lot of money, it's always like it's going to take 3 or 4 years before they're actually playing at a level where you can actually compete for that like top 4, top 6, whatever you call it, right?
So you don't think we'll buy any ready now players then in the summer to
maybe come? Maybe one who's like maybe a 25, 26, 27-year-old, maybe one. But like, I don't think the rest of the players will buy it.
We only got one player in the season that was 27. That was Solanke. Apart from that,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It'll be the same again in the summer, Ash. And I just want, and it depends on who leaves the club as well.
Now, just to add on to that, and already you can come in real quick. But just to add on to that, I think when you look at Langer, and I said it on my Friday night on Marlon's Friday night show, the call-in. When you look at Langer at Aston Villa, he was brought in because if you look at his experience, all he had was Copenhagen. So he's got the Scandinavian market. But Copenhagen's not like an elite club or one of the top 5 leagues. He's come in and he knows the British market, so he was good at recruiting homegrown players. Do you know what I mean? Like the likes of Morgan Rogers and players like that. Or Watkins. Sorry, Watkins was one of his players, wasn't he? So then also, when it comes to under 21s or young players, again, that was his speciality. But in terms of like ready now or players that can help you push up the league, that wasn't his expertise. So that's when they changed his title to global director as opposed to sporting director, football director.
Yeah.
So then obviously we've come in, he's on a lower budget. And as like, I know like this is a conspiracy again. I'm thinking like Levy's wanted to cut corners and save money for other projects that he may have, and so he's reduced the sporting director's bill by bringing him in because it's a bit cheaper. Obviously, Man's got in Ange. Ange is a lot cheaper, and then the players, of course, they're going to be younger. The wages are way less. Do you know what I mean? So we got rid of like 10 to 11 players, and the fans were singing, "Yes, we've won the transfer window. Yes, we've done excellent business." But not realizing we've gotten rid of like loads of experienced players, and we've just cut the wage budget by bringing young players in.
That's exactly it as well, Ash. It's cutting the wage budget even more, which is why we'll never compete. Like that's why I think we'll be in a mid-table team next year. Like I don't.
Go on, sorry, go on. Or do you disagree though?
Yeah, again, it's like to me, it's like players who want to be the best. It's not about money. It's not about big wages. It's about coming and training. Harry Kane, like, and I get about the ready-made players, but what should Spurs have done? Should they have gave Dembele a new contract and Dembele a new contract? The players that they got rid of, it wasn't like these players were shining for Spurs. Pierre, all those players. Those are the players that a lot of Spurs fans were saying were dead with. And just my last point here, because I always smile when I hear this. When they brought in Jose and when they brought in Conte, the fans were saying, and they both got sacked. The fans were pissed. And they said, right, what we want from our club is a structure of one direction. If you're going to bring in a Jose type manager, we are all for that. But make sure you back him with the players that they want. If it's going to sign for 2 years, then you bring in those ready-made players, those experienced players. Or
they're never going to do that though.
Or you bring in a player, or you bring in a manager, you give him a longer contract, and you invest in the youth. And we understand that it's going to take time to rebuild. We understand this, but
Marlon said that to you last week. Marlon said to you last week that Ange already admitted that wasn't the right way to go. They admitted that they made a mistake on not upgrading the senior players, and that was something they need to address. That's what he came at the beginning of the window. But then, if you look at the actual window, the only senior player we really bought on was maybe Danso. Do you know what I'm saying? And Danso had played in the English League, MK Dons, I think it was.
Southampton,
who apparently didn't do too well there. Went over to the Bundesliga. Was it Frankfurt he played for? I can't remember what team it was. And then he went after the Bundesliga, he went to Lens in France. Do you know what I'm saying? And then
I get that, yeah. But if you look at it's looking at the players that Ange's bought in. They've all been players who've, like Solanke, went down to Bournemouth. He went down to the Championship, came back up. Ange seems to like to bring in players who
had a hard.
Yeah, they have the mentality just to keep going. And even Solanke would keep going. And I think that if Ange, I think what Ange needs, if it's possible, is a midfielder who's half Basuma and half Bentancur combined into one with the mentality of Ange. Now, I don't know if that player's out there. Ash, I'm sure you're going to be looking.
No, I think we need a conductor. We need a conductor more than anything.
That's what, and I think from deep. And I think Ange might never say this. This is my conspiracy. I think Ange came in the start of the season and think, right, Romero, I'm going to give you more responsibility so you can step up. Yves Bissouma, he even said this, Yves Bissouma is going to have more responsibility. He's going to be the one who looks after the younger players. Son Heung-min. Maddison as well, and Vicario was part of that leadership group. So it wasn't like, yes, there was one captain who wore the captain's armband, but he said, no, Son, you're a captain, you wear the captain's armband, but Maddison, you're a captain as well. Vicario, you're a captain. Romero, you're a captain. And what he's figured out is that, these guys haven't done that.
But do you think though, some of them maybe have disagreed with some of his points and some of his strategies, and that's the reason why Maddison got dropped, because he's like, I don't
think that is. Maddison wasn't playing the best football. He wasn't. It wasn't like he was creating assists. He wasn't. But that's the thing as well, because a lot of Spurs fans were saying, if the player isn't performing well, why doesn't he get dropped? You know, for example, when Dele Alli was at the club, he wasn't performing well. Why don't you drop him? So he's done that. He's dropped Maddison, and I think Maddison scored against Man City when he came on, and Ange was asked, and he says, because Ange, it's not like Maddison was playing for the England team and then Ange dropped him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maddison was out of the England team. He wasn't performing that well.
Do you know Maddison's our top scorer in the Premier League as well?
It's what?
And
Maddison's our top scorer in the Premier League.
And he had the most.
Oh yeah, I get that.
And he had the most goals and assists combined.
Yeah. But wouldn't you say that when Maddison has gone on the bench and then he's came on and gone, right, I'm going to prove? Because isn't Brennan Johnson close to him as well?
Yeah.
7, yeah.
He's on 7. So like, I'm just thinking that maybe I don't think
less games.
Maddison was dropped because he had a problem with Ange. I think it was like, you're not performing, I'm going to sacrifice you. Because again, he plays in the midfield, and it's either Kuleveski or Maddison. But as I said before, and I think we've all pretty much flipping covered it, it's like, who's behind that? And Ash, I'm sure you're going to be doing your scouting, which is cool. But yeah, like, what midfielder is going to come in and fill that gap? Because Bentancur is not up for it. Yves Bissouma is not up for it. And if your engine room doesn't work, I've watched all the Spurs match, no matter how bad it is. Even against Liverpool, I was sitting there going, right, no, 4-0 down, keep going. And the commentators kept saying, Spurs have no engine room. There's no leaders in the middle of the park.
Do you think though, Oren, just a quick question on that. Do you think if Spurs go buy someone who's going to be in the engine room, especially the quality of player that we need, do you think a player's going to come and look at it and go, okay, Spurs don't win trophies, so I'm going to need the money to do this, and actually it's going to take paying over the odds for someone possibly and paying them a lot more money than what our wage structure is, otherwise we're going to get the inconsistency.
Well, I think the max Spurs will willing to play is like 200 grand a week. Wasn't that what Harry Kane was on or something?
Sonny, I think Sonny's on that.
Yeah. On that. So therefore, if they can get
apart from Werner because he came for free.
Yeah,
You look at the other players that we've signed. I don't think any of them are on more than 100 grand a week.
No, of course not, because they're young. But you gotta have to prove that.
Yeah, but even Solanke.
Yeah,
even Solanke's not on. I'm pretty sure he's on 80 or something.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, so you're looking at it going, okay, that's all good, but you're going to get a player, especially the quality you're going to be looking for. This is just me thinking.
I get you.
I might be completely wrong, but what I'm thinking is, you take Arsenal for a quick second. The only reason why I'm taking Arsenal because you've asked for a DM. They saw Rice as the perfect person for them to go play that role. Yes, they spent 100 million, but the wages probably came with it. Now Spurs are probably not. They're going to be either your wages have to be high, but you're going to have to be a low fee, or you're going to have to be high fee, low wages.
Haven't Arsenal signed Zubimendi for the summer as well?
Well, that was rumored, and I don't know how true that's going to come. Well, apparently, because Liverpool fans went crazy, but
remember,
Arsenal need a striker in their buying midfielders. What does that tell you?
All these defenders, all these midfielders, and one thing they do need. And have
since I'm way past my bedtime.
You say that, the amount of chances they've created. Though. Go on, sorry, go on.
Yeah.
We'll get now anyway.
If Arsenal, I know this is going to be a thing. If Arsenal don't win anything this year, do you see them becoming like a Spurs? You know the way Spurs almost won things, and then they start to.
Yeah, they will do.
Yes.
They will do. They will do. Yeah, they will do.
There'll be the Pochettino era for them.
Yes, they'll be. This is their Poch era. It all depends on one thing: who the next appointment is for them. Their manager. We made the mistake, and because every Spurs fan, not one Spurs fan wanted Jose when he came. But the reason why we were fuming when he was sacked was because it was a week before the final. No other reason. Because he should have been sacked after Zagreb. Yeah. Everyone said he should have gone then, but we kept him, and you can't. And the week before the final. Sorry, that's the club's reputation. Everything just gone into tatters, right? No matter how much we didn't like Mourinho, the content.
I liked Mourinho. I liked him. Yeah. I wanted him to.
You didn't want him though, did you?
Yeah, no. I genuinely wanted Mourinho to stay.
I think everybody thought it was going to be a good.
It
showed ambition. Apparently,
it did at the time, but it was never going to work out, was it? Ash, where you going, man? Because we're trying to go here.
Yes, it's quick. I promise.
Yeah,
you lot can leave if you want. You lot can leave if you want.
No. So stay till the end. I might as well go.
No, it's a quick thing. It's not even a long thing. I'll explain it real quick. Don't worry. So I've just quickly got a quick picture there to say Spurs high intensity of possession, high intensity out of possession. We're all the way out there. Just to prove that point I was making earlier about Spurs the way we play. And that's all of our Premier League teams.
Yeah.
I was quickly just go over
Go
Villa.
back to that. Was it high intensity in possession?
So yeah, high intensity in possession, high
Yeah.
intensity out of possession.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Does
we're
that explain
in that right
Newcastle's injuries
corner.
last year, by the way?
Yeah.
And that's why we're getting so many injuries.
But this is basically it. So I wanted to put the facts down. I don't want to just talk for talking.
Yeah, that's exactly why we're getting.
It says, look, you can see percentage of time sprinting in possession. So that's on the side.
If you look at the teams the two teams that are in it, so let's take European football, us and Newcastle.
Yeah.
Newcastle had a bunch of injuries last year because Kieran Trippier went to the fans and went.
But they were never 14th.
Yeah, they were never 14th. They were 10th or 11th or something.
Yeah, they were 10th or 11th. They were never 15th. They didn't drop 15th.
Yeah. But it's still the same point, because actually when you take Europe into it, you cannot play that type of football and expect to get results.
You have to tweak, you have to change, you have to adapt.
Because if you look at if you look at the teams in Europe, Liverpool, United, Chelsea, where's Forest? Not Forest. Why am I thinking about Forest? Where's City? I can't see City.
There you go. Look, you put it that way.
Where's City?
Where's City? City's not there.
Whoops.
Yeah. We got some fake chart.
Amazing. The lost lottery didn't exist.
No.
The lost lottery City doesn't use on the club anymore.
Make your points.
But if you look at it, if you look at the teams that are in Europe, actually, when you look at trying to be successful in two competitions, you have to play a certain way. Because even Arsenal, which I'm quite surprised with, that they're not higher up the other end, but you have to kind of adapt to the situation.
Yeah, but yeah. So just quickly on Villa, we all know the lineup, so I won't go through it too much. That's a quick passing map. So they're a bit more. Funny enough, they're more low. They look more low to mid block than we are. We look more to mid block, a little bit higher up the pitch. But obviously, you know our style of football, so I won't go through it too much. But just another point as well. If you look at the amount of this is how much times players carry the ball. Now, on the left-hand side is Aston Villa. They carry the ball, from what I've read, over 30 times into our half, where we've only carried the ball into their half, what, a measly, that looks like, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I bet 10 to 11. So they've almost doubled. In fact, they've over-doubled the amount of times they've done the ball carrying feature into our pitch, a progressive carry. So progressive carry is meaning from your half into someone else's half. So that's a progressive carry. And you can see
McGinn and Tielemans, that's why.
Well, yeah, there you go, man. Tielemans, I would have taken him from Auxerre, but anyway, that's another there. Or even Monaco when he went there. But yeah, there's our average positions as well, by the way. So you can see the two midfielders, 15 and number 13, Bergvall and Bentancur, they're in a double pivot, but Son playing in the middle, quite close to Tell on the left, number 11. And on the right, you can see Kulusevski, 21 and 47, Mikey Moore, very close together in that midfield play. Those are the average positions, by the way. So it looked like a 4-2-4 if you look at it from a quick snapshot. But yeah, here was the point I was making. So basically, when the keeper had the ball, Son pressed it. Son, obviously, he's further away. He's near the centre back, who was Konza. Remember, they had two centre backs missing. Moore's gone to press Dinya right there. You can see Kulu's in the picture, Poro's in the picture, Bergvall's there as well. So that's what I'm saying. Like, these are the players that have gone to press him in that particular moment. And this is in the first minute of the game. So this is down to the way we press. We like to press, hound teams, force the error, and that way we can score a goal because we're closer to their goal mouth. Anyway, those are the three players I've circled, all on one player, by the way. Three players. Marlock, you see that? 3 players
falling asleep.
all on one fullback. Do you know what I'm saying? And as a result, number 8 is Tielemans and number 7 is McGinn. Both of them are free. No one's looking at them. So
you see that Ash throughout our whole game. Like, if you see how many times do we see like 3 or 4 Tottenham players, or the Aston Villa goal, right? When you actually see the Aston Villa goal, there's like 4 Tottenham players, and they've just cut through one pass, has cut through 4 Tottenham players. It's just like, what the hell are you doing? It's ridiculous.
So this is why I think it's a part of the press, because look, I've highlighted this area, and you can see even Bergvall's in that area as well. We kind of shift to one side.
What are those 2 Tottenham players doing, standing right next to each other, like they're holding hands?
And this is it. They've beaten the press, and then look, Rogers is free. I've circled him. Look, hey, look at me. And it's not even just me that's done it. I actually got this bit from BBC. I nicked it, yeah. But all right, there's no image. Don't worry, Marlon, there's no image on BBC. But You can see Bentancur, Bergvall, and Kulusevski. Bentancur on the right side, he's not even in the 6, so Bergvall technically playing the 6, but you can see Bentancur's covering Porro. And the point they were making was, look, these 3 midfielders, they're on one side, and they're leaving Morgan Rogers all free by himself, number 27. Do you know what I mean? So as a result of that, when he does get that ball, this is when Bergvall realizes, let me get back in position. There's too much space here. Rogers has managed to beat the 2 of the players, and I've squared that area off, and I put the line against the 3 centre backs, because that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes we're exposed where we've got 3 of our centre backs now. They're going to have to run all the way back, because the clip I didn't show was before that they were on the Aston Villa side. They were ahead of the halfway line. Anyway, let's go to the next clip. That's what happens. He beats 2 of them. And as a result, you can see Marlon, I've circled him.
Look, 4 players around that player who's got the ball.
That's what I'm saying. Because he got Kulu's jumped, Bergvall's jumped, they basically bypassed.
It's not even jump. It's none of them put their flipping foot in to try and take the ball. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like I saw watching that match, that exact moment, I'm like, how the fuck did McGinn do that? He just turned. But then I saw and again, I'm putting this down.
McGinn's done it. Rogers did it. I
get it. It was so easy, and it was like the players tried to tackle, but they couldn't, and they were always 1 second behind Aston Villa players.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, look, Marlon here, I've circled him out because
Marlon's trying to stay awake.
He's pinned Danso. He's pinned Danso, which allows space for Ramsey to kind of invert and come into the midfield and get in that little half space, which I'll show in a second.
Yeah.
So look, there I've circled him. I don't know if you can see that. I've circled him because look, no one's picking him up because Porro was so high up. He's allowed that space to run him behind. So irrespective if it was Kinski's mistake, the points I was making before that, all of the setup, everything, the instructions, the first minute of the game, this is what we've looked at, not just for this season, but seasons gone past.
But look at that, like you have 1 Aston Villa player and actually 5 Spurs players around them.
5 players. 5 players. It's crazy.
Right. So Burrow's out of position.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6. Look.
Yeah. So Spurs actually have more players back than Aston Villa has players going forward.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So therefore, like, I used to play defense at school. It's nowhere near the level. But if I'm a central defender, I'm directing, I'm talking. And I think that's, again, where, in a certain aspect, Romero and maybe Van de Ven, or maybe Romero is a little bit better.
I saw this against Brighton as well.
Yeah, again.
When Mickey Van de Ven was fit, Doggy was fit. You know what I'm saying? We had our back line. Porro was fit. And
there was no...
type of thing.
The thing is with Spurs is, and this has been, when people say lack of leadership, I think what the case is, there's no one talking. Like, you don't see someone being vocal and going, right, unless Spurs are winning, then they're all, as I said, pointing and being vocal. But when Spurs are in a talking position, I have yet to see maybe like Madison or even Bentancur or Bissouma to go, right, no, you stay there, I'm going to go. You see that with the top teams. Aston Villa, they're all talking to each other. They're communicating.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marlon, or Ash with that.
No, I'm just saying, showing the evidence. I don't want to just talk for talking.
No. We watched the game.
Bring us back as well.
Yeah.
There's something, sometimes you watch the game and you might miss a couple of things, isn't it? So there was a ball that Bergvall played to Kulusevski. Kulusevski ran through, plays it into Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore gets his head up, which I like. Gets his head up, spots Son, and plays a lovely ball into Son. Yeah. And I'm like, Son, you got to finish that. But he hits it into the belly. He doesn't even hit it into the keeper's hands. He hits it into the and I'm saying, like, is Son done? Or is it confidence? Like, is it like, what is it? Because normally Son's putting that in the back of the net, regardless if he's like lost pace or whatever. Son should be finishing that.
Song, there's 2 versions of Song. When Song doesn't think, he's phenomenal. When he gets the goals, he's not thinking. When Harry Kane used to hit that ball over the top, Song didn't have time to think. It was get on the ball and put it in the back of the net. Yeah. When Song has time to think, he fluffs his lines all the time. Whether it's a cross, whether it's a corner, whether it's a pass, give him time to think. He's not good at making the right choices.
So this is the last, well, kind of the last bit I want to talk about. But this is obviously, you've got Tielemans on the ball, breaks to him, as the ball bounces, and I think the ball came in from McGinn. I think Tell obviously tried to throw a ball in, and it's broken to Tillemans now. So the 50-50 could be one from Bentancur, but he's not close enough to Tillemans, and Tillemans is able to poke that ball through.
Mhm.
And I've circled Basuma because Basuma is not looking at the player that's running on his blind side, and that's Marlon.
He never
Marlon
does
there.
it. He never does.
You can see there, look, Marlon's running on the shoulder. You can't see him. And there's two players free on the right-hand side as well. So then this is, well, again, it's like the argument's always going to be, is it the players or is it the manager? And the manager's come out and says, it's not the players. It's not the players.
He has to. Ange has to. He has to.
You can't blame the players in here. So then I'm like, Rod, then are you setting these players up right? Because now... Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Ange, for me, has to say that, because the players are going to still give him his all if he shows support in the players, because he can rightfully say the players aren't doing well and then they just shut off and then he gets sacked. So I think Ange's playing a very, I wouldn't say smart, but he's playing a very intelligent game where it's, I'll take the responsibility. The players won't get slated as much because I think Ange's only doing that because he's been reassured by Levy he's not going to be sacked. I think if Ange was told, listen, you've got 3 games.
Check this, Oren. Look at Spence. Look how high Spence up.
I know. They were chasing the game.
So it's not even like Porro. You know, like we were brushing Porro for it. Spence has done it as well. He's done an inversion. He's clearly in the midfield.
Yes.
And he's high up. So regardless if he's up wide or in the midfield, he's out of position. And then look, you're seeing, again, players like Ramsey, running him through, isolating.
Look at Basuma.
Oh, yeah, Basuma's chasing shadows at the moment.
That's the guy who's meant to be in front, ready to stop. He's behind the player.
Because he's like, it's almost like a 2v1 because Bailey's running on the outside.
Yeah.
Even more issues. So then obviously off the back of that, this is what I didn't like. There's no footing. Like you said, there's no challenge here because he managed to get back in. There's no challenge. Marlon's able to peel off on the outside. Ramsey's there as well. Now, look, Bentancur has to get blamed too because Bentancur's not following the runner of Rodgers.
No,
Ramsey's peeled off behind Porro. And so there's like some multiple issues. Do you know what I'm saying? Even like Archie Gray the Great. Archie Brown more like, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know,
look, Porro as well. The
whole defense is culpable. The whole defense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this is the tactics. This is 100% tactics. There's no organization in this team.
Organization is zero.
But like I get what you're trying to say with tactics, but organization comes from players talking to each other and pointing and going right.
But the problem is
each other and running for each other.
Oren, you said it yourself earlier in the show. You said there's no cohesion between the players, and that's because the players don't know what they're doing.
They should know what they're doing. On the pitch. It's like
surely got to be talking there. Look at Rodgers. He's letting peel off. Bentancur's there behind him.
Yeah, they should be. Yeah, exactly. So Bentancur should see that danger and push and get close to Rodgers. Whether he hasn't got the pace or the stamina to get close to Rodgers.
Look.
And he's just standing there. So how can that be a tactical thing when it's Bentancur who switches off? And that's an important role in the middle of the midfield. And look at Basuma. He's holding his hands up after being caught. You know, if you look at those, what I saw against Aston Villa was that Aston Villa, when they got the ball, they had 3 players breaking, running. Spurs never had that, and they couldn't track back, and they couldn't get back. Has Marlon gone? He's gone to bed?
I'm going to finish off there, man.
Right.
Yeah, obviously they scored a goal off the back of that. We got a call. Something, as you saw. But the last bit I was going to talk about was this defensive line. And our defensive line, I don't know if I can rewind it a little bit, but our defensive line here is the bottom line. It's the bottom 0.25. The bottom line, as you can see, defensive 4, 6.66. So we are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th highest line. So the line has dropped off to where it was before. You know how we used to be super high. Now we're the 6th highest line in the league, innit? So I know a lot of fans will see this and be like, "Oh, high line for life, the tactics." Yeah. I think we have dropped a little bit in our defensive line and structure. I thought I wanted to bring that to light. And then this one I brought up as well in terms of the field tilt, which means how much times we have the ball in opposition half. We're still quite high. We still live in the opposition's half there as well. Then I wanted to bring this up as well in terms of goals conceded. we are the 5th worst team in the league in terms of goals conceded. But because we score so many, it doesn't look as bad because we beat teams, for example, Villa by 4, City by 4, Man United by 4. It kind of distorts that figure when you look at the actual, people say, look at how much goals, the goal difference for Spurs. They got +11, but Aston Villa got -3. It doesn't make any sense. It's because we scored in those games a high amount of numbers. Do you know what I mean? Which is offsetting those numbers.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Then also, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, I wonder how many what the stat would be on the amount of times you lose the ball in the opposition half.
I think I looked at that as well, but I don't think I've gone through that. But goals conceded per match, 1.5.
Flip me, the amount of times. Right, guys, I have to go. Sorry, I have to go. Right.
Yeah,
Nice
cool, man.
Nice talking to everyone.
I'm gonna finish it off anyway, but yeah,
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
knowledge, man. Big up.
Yeah.
And just to finish off, last season, because I wanted to make the difference between this season and last season. Last season, expected goals, we were the 7th worst team. Just to put that into, because some people, and people don't like the expected goals chart, but it's just basically how many big chances are we giving up? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I brought that one up. Last season we were the 7th worst team. This season we are the 7th worst team.
So we haven't improved.
The improvement's not too much, and then possessions won in the final third. To be fair, we're up there. We're third best. Just to let that know. So we attacking wise, we're there. But then age profile, we're the 4th youngest team.
Yeah.
Chelsea are the youngest, and Brighton and Bournemouth. And so people like to talk about how young we are, the players and the experience. But we've got 3 teams above us.
Look where Bournemouth are. Yeah.
Exactly. Goals against, again, we are 12th placed. I'll put that down with 12 because we've got the different number of positions on the side. But Liverpool first, obviously, we're 14th. But we're 12th in that metric for goals against, as I said before. And then, and again, we're 10th place for shots conceded. So shots conceded, we're 10th. So, yeah. Another one is 10th place for shots on target conceded as well. We're 10th as well, 10th place. So we're 10th. That's why I was asking Oren, where does he see us like in the league? So if you look at those metrics, that would tell you that things aren't looking too good.
We're a mid-table team. The stats are basically saying we're a mid-table team.
Statting. So we've got 11th place last season for shots conceded. Imagine that, 11th place. Is it 11th place I got down? Or was that 7th?
Can't see from here.
I can't see. I think it's 7th. Sorry, my bad. 7th. 7th. And then 8th. We're 7th and 8th for shots on target. So that's conceded. So that's shots conceded, by the way, as well. So that puts it to last season compared to this season. Obviously, this season we're worse, but then that makes us like 8th, even though we finished 5th. Remember the first 10 games we won, or the first 10 games we were undefeated, that kind of conflated our actual position where we should have been, if that makes sense, underneath the manager. So the last bit, that was the last bit. That's it. That was my presentation, bro. You know what I mean?
I like it. I just think that this season, like, we can't go another season with this kind of football because we have got worse. Like, we literally have got worse.
Yeah, I think there has to be a way where we manage in periods, like sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes.
You know what?
Because the out of possession stat, where the sprints and the intensity metric,
that one is for me is where
that's the telltale sign.
Yeah, that's what shows how much it's affected our players and their fitness and their injuries. And this is why people want Ange out, is because he is not willing to change his philosophy and the way he wants to try and play. And then it's basically causing everyone to get injured. And if he's not going to change it, right, then he's got to go, to be honest. But I just don't think he will. I honestly think he's going to stay beyond the summer.
Yeah, no, look, it's a hard situation, and that's why I said to Oren, and I said to I realized people that are Levy, I wouldn't say in, because no one's really Levy in, but they kind of don't like to say Levy out, and they don't like to say Ange out. The reason being is because, like I said before, they like the way we're doing it organically. They like the fact that we're doing it nicely. Do you know what I'm saying? We're not bending the rules. We're not criminals. We're not, we're not cheating. Do you know what I'm saying? And so that makes you
Well,
feel.
they are cheating. They're cheating us fans.
Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? And then
They're
Ange
cheating us
comes
fans.
out and he talks nicely. Do you know what I'm saying? And because it gives you that feel good, it's hard to go against that. Does that make sense? Whereas, and then it also spills onto the players that we have. We've got lots of players that are really nice, a bunch of nice guys. Do you know what I'm saying? And so
But that's the problem. That's a cultural problem.
That's a cultural problem. That's what I'm trying to say, and that's why a lot of fans identify with that, and they think, no, well, this is unfair. Like they're cheating and blah blah blah. Whereas you look at Arsenal, like, and their players, they're nasty. Look at the youngsters they've got. The youngsters are all celebrating, doing shithousery. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Spurs don't have kids like that. We don't.
No.
We have a bunch of.
It's an arrogance. It's an arrogance.
And like even like I put out on Twitter and X. Sorry, I got Marlon to do it as well. I said, look, we're looking for Ange inners. Do you know what I'm saying? And then some people were like, oh, it's a trap, because they don't want to have that argument online because we're too much of a, like, if I look at Arsenal, another Arsenal, what's it called, fan show, them men are going at each other. I look at Chelsea, them men are going at each other, but it's not a problem. If we do it, then that person's nasty. I can't go and stream with that person. I can't go and stream with that. And there's all this division. Do you know what I'm trying to say? But we could just chop it up, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? If people get at it, if it gets ugly, it gets ugly. We move. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Of
I just think it's the culture. I really think it's the culture. It's not just the Levy. It's not just Ange. It's the fans as well. I'm not saying the fans are the problem, but it's
they are the problem though. Part of the problem. It is
everywhere.
Part, you see it. Everywhere is part of the problem, and this is why they've got the protests for the Man United game with change for Tottenham. And
I want to see because everyone's like, yeah, big up the protests, red tear. I want to see who comes up because
are you going, Ash?
Listen, I'm not a talker. I don't want to talk. Yeah. So I prefer not to say nothing. You get it? Yeah. All this talking. I prefer not to do it. I'm a person that will just show. So I'm not saying going to no protest. I'm not saying that. Nah.
Yeah.
I'd rather just, if you see me, you see me. If you don't, you don't. Simple as that. Do you know what I mean? All this talking needs to stop. And then when people moan, we didn't get that signing over the line. We didn't get that player over the line. Red tear. Like, what are we doing there? You had your chance. You had your opportunity. But you wanted to stay at home, cozy. You know what I'm saying? You wanted to argue on WhatsApp. Kick that person out of WhatsApp group. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Come on, man. What are you doing there? What's going on?
It's Tottenham for you, actually. It's Tottenham for you. That's why. That's what.
Broski, big up, man. Love for coming on, man. All right, guys, make sure you hit the like. I forget as well. Thanks for coming on, man. It was good.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it was vibes.
Smash the like, everyone.
Yeah, smash up the likes. Also, tomorrow, you already know how it goes, man. We're doing up rivals. Arsenal. We've got a couple Arsenal. I'm gonna have who've I got on? I got Hooks on. On tomorrow, so I might have to get George back on to battle him. But yeah, Hooks is gonna be there. We got who have we got? We've got City fan. We've got a Liverpool fan coming on. So it should be good, man. Should be deep.
People haven't watched this show, they need to watch this show. It's the best show you do.
Yeah, man. So yeah, man. Big up, man. Hit up the likes. Support the channel. The more you like it, the more people see it. So that's the reason why we encourage the likes. Like, it's not, we don't get paid for it or anything like that. It's just so don't be tight. Basically, that's what we're saying. Let other people see the video. They might like it. They might subscribe. And if you're not subscribed already, make sure you subscribe. But we're all Spurs family, of course. So all I'm gonna say is, come on, you Spurs, man. Come on, you Spurs. Simple as that.
Spurs. Leave you out.
Leave you out, man. Leave you out.